Chapter 648. Jianqin was extremely dissatisfied with the mere third-grade radiant spirit pill he had created. I wonder how I can make the pill shell contain even more radiant saint force. Is it because the materials used to refine the pill shell are limited? Jianqin thought. He immediately stowed the radiant spirit pill away in his space ring and left his residence. He found He-Yun, who was about to rest, under the lead of a guard. Since He-Yun had already become the hall master of the alchemy hall, he possessed a certain status in the mercenaries. As a result, Jianqin had specially arranged a residence for him in the imperial palace. However, when He-Yun saw that the captain of the mercenaries, a mighty saint ruler, had personally come to see him, he immediately became quite frightened. He immediately bowed in greeting. Although he possessed a certain status in the heavenly eagle kingdom due to his talent in alchemy, he had to treat even heaven saint masters politely back then, let alone a saint ruler that even heaven saint masters had to look up to. There's no need for that, Master He-Yun. I've come to disturb you this time because I have something important to ask you. Let's sit down and talk. Jianqin smiled gently. He seemed like an amiable person as he directly sat down at the table. Captain, you only need to send someone to report to me. I will hurry over as quickly as possible. There's no need for you to come personally, He-Yun bowed as he bowed. He-Yun hurriedly bowed, feeling extremely flattered. Afterward, he sat before Jianqin with a restrained expression. Even though Jianqin was only a junior who was much younger than him, he still felt extremely terrified when facing a saint ruler. This was because strength was everything on the Tianyuan continent. Master He-Yun, I've come to ask about the radiant spirit pill. May I ask what the highest grade of radiant spirit pill can be made from the shells you provided me? Jianqin asked. He-Yun pondered for a moment before replying. Captain, the pill shells I gave you before were only refined from normal medicinal ingredients. According to my estimations, they can only refine level 3 radiant spirit pills at most. Due to the limitations of the medicinal ingredients, they can only seal the radiant saint force required for level 3 radiant spirit pills. If you want to refine higher level radiant spirit pills, you'll need even more precious medicinal ingredients to refine the pill shells. Grandmaster He-Yun, then can you help me refine a batch of high-grade pill shells? At the very least, they have to be at the level of level 6 radiant divine pills. Jianqin said the quality of the radiant spirit pills was the same as the level of radiant saint masters. With his abilities as a 6th-class radiant saint master, he could only refine 6th-class radiant spirit pills at most. He-Yun muttered to himself for a while, then said, Sir Captain, I do indeed have the ability to refine a level 6 radiant divine pills core shell, but the materials required are too precious. It must be 1,000-year-old medicinal herbs. Although the variety is not as precious as those heavenly treasures, the price is still not cheap. Grandmaster He-Yun, please give me a list of the materials you need. I'll immediately get people to collect them when I get back, said Jianqin. Afterwards, He-Yun immediately wrote down a list of materials required to refine a level 6 radiant divine pills core shell before handing it to Jianqin. After receiving the list of materials, Jianqin did not continue to disturb He-Yun. He immediately left and got people to collect all the materials on the list as quickly as possible. Since this matter was personally ordered by Jianqin, the people below were extremely efficient. They only spent a day to collect all the materials. Although the materials were all 1,000-year-old, they were not particularly precious. They were rather common in some deep mountains and forests, which was why they were collected so smoothly. After collecting the materials, He-Yun, who had just recovered his energy, threw himself into the process of refining the pill again. This time, he spent 2 whole days to successfully refine the core shell. He refined a total of over 100 core shells before immediately handing them over to Jianqin. Jianqin did not delay at all after receiving the core shell of the level 6 radiant divine pill. Taking advantage of the free time he had, he immediately threw himself into refining the level 6 radiant divine pill. Refining a level 6 radiant divine pill was much more difficult than refining a level 3 radiant divine pill. At the same time, it took several times more time. Jianchen could refine 30 level 3 radiant divine pills at once, but at this moment he could only refine 3 level 6 radiant divine pills at once. This was because the core shell of a level 6 radiant divine pill was much tougher than a level 3 radiant divine pill. Pouring radiant saint force into it was not as easy as refining a level 3 radiant divine pill. With Jianchen's current ability, he could only pour radiant saint force into 3 core shells at once. After spending half a day, Jianchen finally succeeded in refining 3 level 6 radiant divine pills. Looking at the 3 thumb-sized pills floating before him, Jianchen could not hide his joy. Jianchen had refined these radiant divine pills for the sake of his friends. Although he was a radiant saint master, he could not always be by their side. If they encountered danger when he was not around, the radiant divine pills would be able to save their lives. This made him feel much more at ease. I've used up a fifth of my soul to refine 3 radiant divine pills. I should be able to refine 15 radiant divine pills continuously with this amount of energy. Jianchen calculated inside before lowering his head to look at the several dozen shells in the wooden box to the side. He murmured, 3 radiant divine pills are nowhere near enough. I need to refine all the shells in here at the very least. With that, Jianchen controlled the 3 shells to hover in the air with his mind again. Using his abilities, he communicated with the radiant saint force in the surroundings and rapidly gathered it. He began the great undertaking of refining a large number of high-grade radiant divine pills. The next few days passed peacefully. Nothing happened at all. The tungsten alloy mine that the flame mercenaries had occupied continued to be mined in an orderly manner. They could refine a large amount of tungsten alloy every day, so the flame mercenary stockpile of tungsten alloy increased at an unbelievable rate. The mine that produced the tungsten alloy had become an important place of protection for the flame mercenaries. Basically, half of their forces were gathered there to silently guard it, preventing any accidents from happening. On the 3rd day after Jianchen began refining Class 6 Radiant Divine Pills, an extremely tremendous pressure suddenly appeared out of nowhere. It flooded the surroundings, causing the weather to change. The gentle energy of the world suddenly became extremely violent as well. Chapter 649. Jianchen, you little brat, come out and die. An old and resonant voice rang out, reverberating between the heavens and the earth, reaching a radius of tens of kilometers. The powerful sound waves shook the walls of the palace, and some of the weaker people even had their eardrums bleeding. They covered their ears with their hands and rolled on the ground in pain, letting out miserable howls. Jianchen, who was sitting cross-legged on his bed refining the radiant spirit pills, suddenly opened his eyes. The moment he opened his eyes, a resplendent light flashed, and the radiant saint force that had gathered in front of his chest quickly disappeared. They're finally here, and they've even brought along quite a few helpers. Jianchen murmured in a low voice. A strong killing intent flashed in his eyes, and he immediately put the 3 incomplete radiant spirit pills into a jade bottle. His figure flashed, and he disappeared from the palace. Jianchen's body was wrapped in a thick layer of wind elemental energy, causing his body to emit a dense green light. His body was faintly discernible, adding to his mysterious aura. A powerful aura surged out from Jianchen's body, and he flew into the sky without any fear. His battle intent was high. At the same time, 2 more powerful auras came from the palace, filling up the entire area, causing the air to freeze. Several powerful auras that belonged to saint rulers intertwined in the sky, as if they were colliding violently. Countless people below could not help but clutch at their chests, feeling suffocated and uncomfortable. It was as if they could no longer breathe in the surrounding air. The white-robed Deity and the golden-robed newbies flew out of the palace at the same time. The two of them seemed to have turned into streaks of light, following behind Jianchen as they shot into the sky. In a moment, Jianchen, Nubis, and Deity arrived at an altitude of several thousand meters. The three of them stood side by side, coldly looking at the other side. Opposite them, there were still three expressionless people floating in the air. One of them was a saint ruler of the dragon and tiger sect, while the other two were old men in their 70s. Their eyes were as deep as the starry night sky, flickering with light. Of the two, one of them was dressed in a blue robe. His white hair was unadorned, and he looked like an old man in dire straits. He stood with his hands behind his back, expressionlessly looking at Jianchen and the other two. The other person was dressed in sackcloth. His expression was peaceful, without the slightest trace of murderous intent. His body naturally exuded an otherworldly aura, as if he was an otherworldly expert. However, he looked so ordinary. Coupled with his simple disguise, he looked more like an old farmer in the mountains. Jianchen's face gradually became stern. The three saint rulers made him feel extremely pressured. Just the saint ruler of the dragon and tiger sect alone required the three of them to suppress him. Now that they had two more saint rulers, their strength had increased by several times. The situation was extremely disadvantageous for them. The saint ruler of the dragon and tiger sect sneered when he saw Jianchen's stern face. He gritted his teeth and said, "Jianchen, old man, said that he would return the humiliation he suffered back then many times over. Today is the day you die. Are you really confident that you can kill me?" Jianchen asked emotionlessly. He possessed the chaotic body, so he was confident that it would be very difficult for the saint ruler of the dragon and tiger sect to kill him. "Jianchen, the situation is bad. I can't see through their strength at all. They're definitely more powerful than the saint ruler of the dragon and tiger sect," Deity said to Jianchen secretly. He was extremely stern. Nubis clenched his fists. His slender, girlish fingers cracked as he clenched them. He also sternly replied, "Jianchen, it really is difficult to deal with this time. The enemy is just too strong. The old man in blue robes is at the 5th heavenly layer, while the old man in white robes is even stronger. He's already at the 6th heavenly layer." Nubis' strength was the same as Jeditai's, but he was an ancient beast, a golden-striped silver snake. He knew many unknown abilities, so he could clearly see the strength of the saint ruler of the dragon and tiger sect. Jianchen's face changed again when he heard that. He stared at the two old men beside the saint ruler of the dragon and tiger sect in shock. He had never thought that the saint ruler of the dragon and tiger sect would have such powerful helpers. Jianchen was no longer as confident as before after learning the exact strength of the enemy. The difference in strength was so great that it was almost impossible to make up for it. The enemy only needed to send out a 5th heavenly layer saint ruler to easily keep Deity and Nubis busy. The remaining 6th heavenly layer saint ruler and the 4th heavenly layer saint ruler were not people that Jianchen could deal with. Jianchen placed his right hand behind his back, and a piece of white jade silently appeared in his hand. He immediately crushed it. "Jianchen, what do we do? We're no match for them at all." Deity said telepathically. He was rather uneasy. Nubis gritted his teeth and said, "I never thought that I would encounter such experts so soon after stepping into the human world. The human world really is full of hidden experts. Jianchen, I'll go stop the 6th heavenly layer saint ruler. I'll leave the other two to you. Can you do it?" Jianchen asked worriedly. The difference between each heavenly layer in the saint ruler realm was extremely large. Nubis was only a 3rd heavenly layer saint ruler, so it would be suicide for him to stop a 6th heavenly layer saint ruler. Aside from me, none of you are his opponent. Don't forget that I'm a magical beast. I'm stronger than humans of the same level. Not to mention that I'm an ancient beast," Nubis said with a heavy voice. "If that's the case, leave the 5th heavenly layer saint ruler to me." Your body's defense may be abnormal, but you still haven't become a saint ruler. You haven't comprehended the mysteries of the world. You won't even be able to fight back against him. Leave the saint ruler of the sect of dragon and tiger to me. Jianqin said with a heavy voice. The chaotic Niden in his dantian constantly spat out strands of hazy chaotic force that spread throughout his body, pushing the advantages of the chaotic body to the limit. On the other side, Situqing also wanted to find a way to kill Jianqin and put an end to all future problems. He said, Guqiu, please stop the other two. Bai Hai, come with me to kill Jianqin. Bai Hai frowned slightly with that. He said he can control the energy of the world to fly. He still hasn't comprehended the mysteries of the world and become a saint ruler. Isn't it a little overkill if we need the two of us to deal with a junior like him? Bai Hai, don't underestimate him. This kid's talent is unprecedented and will surprise you. Let's not talk about this right now. Let's kill him together. If he doesn't die, there'll be endless trouble in the future, said the saint ruler of the sect of dragon and tiger. The saint ruler of the sect of dragon and tiger growled as he charged towards Jianqin's group. Guqiu and Bai Hai were unwilling to fall behind. Hiss! Suddenly, a soul-piercing cry rang out. Newbie shone brightly with golden light, illuminating the surroundings. He had turned into a huge, golden snake in a single moment. The snake was only half a meter thick, which was nowhere near the size of a few low-level, snake-type magical beasts. However, its length was astounding. It was actually 10,000 meters long. As it coiled in the sky, it seemed to envelop the entire region. It was extremely shocking. Moreover, gold and silver light flickered on its half-meter thick body. This was a phenomenon that would only appear when golden-striped silver snake used its full strength. Newbies dared not hold back at all against a sixth heavenly layer saint ruler. He used his most powerful form right from the start. The sudden change shocked the three saint rulers of the dragon tiger sect. All of them stared dumbfoundedly at the 10,000-meter-long giant golden snake that was circling in the sky. Their eyes were momentarily dazed. Demonic beast, he's actually a demonic beast. The dragon tiger sect's holy king Situ exclaimed in shock. That's an ancient magical beast, golden-striped silver snake. Its poison is unparalleled in the world. The linen-clothed old man, Guqiu, cried out in surprise. Soon after, his eyebrows furrowed slightly. An extremely rare sense of seriousness appeared on his calm expression. This was because the venom of a Class 7 silver-striped golden snake was powerful enough to threaten a saint ruler expert. The blue-robed Bai Hai also frowned. He looked at newbies with a serious expression and said, Has a magical beast escaped from the depths of the Cross Mountain Range? At this moment, Newbies' 10,000-meter-long body trembled in the air, causing the surrounding space to tremble violently. Shortly after, his body turned into a streak of golden light and formed an airtight prison with unbelievable speed, trapping Guqiu within. Chapter 650. Newbies kept the strongest of the three enemies busy, while Deity did not want to fall behind. He fearlessly charged at the blue-robed Bai Hai and engaged in a fierce battle with Bai Hai. Bai Hai originally wanted to deal with Jianqin with the saint ruler of the sect of dragon and tiger, Situqing. However, he was held back by Deity and had no choice but to fight. The saint ruler of the sect of dragon and tiger was also fighting with Jianqin. As he knew how powerful Jianqin was, the saint ruler of the sect of dragon and tiger did not dare to hold back. He went all out from the get-go, drawing his saint weapon and attacking Jianqin with 120% of his strength. Every time he swung his saint weapon, a small crack would appear in the space around him. The strength of each of his attacks had already exceeded the limits of what the space could withstand. Jianqin used chaotic force to cover every inch of his body, pushing its defenses to the limit. Even his skin under his clothes became slightly gray. At the same time, he used the illusory flash, constantly flickering through the air like a ghost. He used his body to take on the attacks from the saint ruler of the sect of Dragon and Tiger. "Genshin, you're dead for sure this time." The saint ruler of the sect of Dragon and Tiger sneered. The curved blade in his hand was fiery red and gave off an intense heat that seemed to be able to evaporate the air. The temperature of the surroundings suddenly rose. Soon after, there was a flash of red light, and the curved blade seemed to fuse with the space around it. The blade blurry cut through the air and slashed towards Genshin's neck with unparalleled speed. The saint ruler of the sect of Dragon and Tiger had used the mysteries of space for this attack. Genshin, who had yet to reach this level, could not dodge at all. This was because no matter how he tried to dodge, the curved blade that had fused with the space around it would be able to track him down. Genshin's eyes shone brightly as strands of chaotic force surged out from his chaotic Naiden. They quickly merged into his fists, and he swung them towards the incoming curved blade. Since he could not dodge, he could only take it head-on. The chaotic body was his greatest asset to look down on the saint ruler. Bang! With a loud boom, Genshin's fists collided with the scimitar of the Dragon Tiger Sect Saint King. Immediately, a powerful shockwave erupted, causing the surrounding space to tremble violently. On Genshin's fists, a hideous wound had appeared. Half of his fingers had been broken. If the power of this blade had been stronger, then Genshin's 5 fingers would have been hard pressed to protect. Genshin's fingers were all injured. The excruciating pain caused his facial muscles to twitch slightly. However, under the effects of the chaotic body, the wounds on his fingers healed at a visible rate. In just a few seconds, a third of the wounds had healed, while the bones in his fingers that had been severed healed automatically. Aside from bestowing great strength upon Genshin, the fusion of chaotic force and chaotic body also granted him a monstrous rate of recovery. Even with the entire world in perspective, no one could match up to him. "Genshin, I'd like to see just how much longer you can last." The saint ruler of the Dragon Tiger sect snarled. He was not surprised at all that Genshin could block his full-powered attack with just his fists. He swung his saint weapon again and attacked Genshin as hard as he could. On the other side, Nubis used his 10,000-meter-long body to form an airtight cage, trapping Guqiu inside. No one could see what was happening inside. Bang! 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 Heavy thuds rang out from the cage one after another, like a beating heart. With each thud, Nubis' body would tremble violently. Roar! Suddenly, a roar rang out from Nubis' body. It was like a clap of thunder, and a tremendous sound wave reverberated in the surroundings, causing the earth to crack. The golden cage that Nubis had formed with his body was suddenly broken. His 10,000-meter-long body turned back into a rope that floated in the air like a golden ribbon. It shone with a dazzling golden light. As the prison was destroyed, the dark, gray, poisonous gas that had been trapped inside leaked out. The poisonous gas billowed, as if there was a dragon rolling inside. It quickly spread in all directions. Moreover, the poisonous gas infected the surrounding air, turning it into a poisonous gas that rapidly spread in all directions. The silver-striped golden snake's poison was extremely potent. Deity, the old man, and the saint ruler of the Dragon Tiger sect all felt a faint dizziness when they breathed in a bit of the polluted air. Only Genshin was unaffected. I never thought that the silver-striped golden snake's poison would be so potent. It really is just as the legends say, the blue-robed old man said in a deep voice. The blue-robed old man spoke in a deep voice. Immediately, the 3 experts immediately held their breaths and purposely avoided the poison fog that was continuously spreading. In the city below, many people had breathed in the poisonous air and fainted. In the blink of an eye, the bustling city had become a ghost town. The streets were filled with people who had fainted from the poison. Only those who had reached the Earth Saint Master level were able to support themselves. However, they also swayed and their footsteps were weak. It seemed like they would not be able to last much longer. In the imperial palace, Bai Lian and Yu Yu, who were not even Earth Saint Masters, were unconscious on the ground. The entire imperial palace was filled with people. Only over 100 Earth Saint Masters remained standing. All of them covered their noses with their hands. With Lu Man's knowledge, he obviously knew that this was caused by inhaling poison. However, Tai Ta was the exception among them. He stood there as if nothing had happened as he blankly stared at the surroundings. His condition was even better than the Heaven Saint Masters. It was as if the polluted air posed no threat to him at all. Blockhead, what are you standing there for? Quickly cover your nose and hold your breath. There's poison in the air. Ming Dong hurriedly said. He immediately took out an antidote from his space ring and swallowed it, but it had no effect at all. Tai Ta violently inhaled the air around him and softly murmured, "Is there really poison? Strange. Why can't I feel anything at all?" Although he said that, Tai Ta copied Ming Dong and the others and covered his nose. In the sky, Newbie suddenly opened its tiny head. A boundless suction suddenly appeared, sucking all the poison into Newbie's mouth. In just a short while, the poison in the air had completely dispersed. As the poison dissipated, the old man in sackcloth, Guqiu, who had been wrapped in poison the entire time, was revealed. He was floating there with his eyes closed. His face had already turned from its previous rosy color to a dark gray color. He looked like he had been deeply poisoned. Moreover, there were strands of black smoke constantly rising from his body, as expected of an ancient beast that specializes in poison. Its poison is actually so tyrannical. It truly lives up to its name. I've finally seen it for myself today. Guqiu said with his eyes closed, using all his strength to purge the poison from his body. A scarlet light pulsed in Newbie's eyes as it stared at Guqiu. Its snake mouth opened and closed as it spoke. Old man, how can the poison released by the great newbies be so easy to purge? Although the great newbies cannot kill you, I can still hold you back. With that, newbies began to fight the old man again, preventing him from purging the poison from his body in a short amount of time. Deity and the blue-robed old man were also engaged in an extremely intense battle. Every time the two of them clashed, the might of their attacks was extremely great. Deity did not hold back in the slightest, as he faced an expert who was 2 celestial layers stronger than him. His strength was already at its peak. Even though that was the case, his opponent still managed to deal with him easily. He did not feel any pressure at all because the difference between each heavenly layer of Saint Ruler was extremely great. It was very difficult to make up for it, unless he encountered an ancient beast like newbies. The battle between Jianqin and the Saint King from the Dragon Tiger sect was also very intense. Every time the Saint King from the Dragon Tiger sect attacked, he borrowed the power of space to fuse with it. This made it impossible for Jianqin to dodge. After such a long battle, Jianqin had already lost count of how many times he had been injured. His blood had long since dyed his clothes red. Although he looked extremely pathetic, his battle prowess had not weakened at all. Instead, it had stirred up his manly blood, making him even more energetic. The Saint King from the Dragon Tiger sect grew more and more fearful of Jianqin's powerful body. He was like a cockroach that could not be killed. He was more tenacious than a mantis by 100 times, 1,000 times, 10,000 times. However, this only made the Saint King from the Dragon Tiger sect even more determined to kill Jianqin. Bai Hai, don't waste any more time on him. Hurry up and finish him off. Come help me. Let's work together to kill Jianqin. The Saint King from the Dragon Tiger sect could only ask for help from Bai Hai. He knew that if he wanted to kill Jianqin today, he would need the help of a 5th celestial layer Saint King. The blue-robed old man nodded slightly when he heard the Saint King's request for help. While he was fighting Deity, he had also been paying attention to the battle between the Saint King and Jianqin. He was extremely shocked by Jianqin's abnormally powerful body. The blue-robed old man no longer stayed behind and used his full strength to deal with Deity. The difference in strength between the two of them was just too great after all. After the blue-robed old man used his full strength, Deity was struck in the chest by a palm strike after just a few exchanges. He fell from the sky, heavily injured. Without Deity's interference, the blue-robed old man did not hesitate at all. He turned into a blur and arrived before Genshin in an instant. Invisible world force quickly gathered in his hand, and he gently struck at Genshin's chest. Genshin suddenly became extremely stern when he sensed the power contained in the palm strike. He could clearly feel the power of the palm strike. It was definitely several times more powerful than a full-powered attack from a Saint King. It was definitely not something his chaotic body could endure. Chapter 651. At this critical moment, the old ancestor of the Huang family had finally rushed over. A vast amount of pressure was being emitted from his body, dispersing the surrounding clouds. Even the flowing air seemed to have solidified. The blue-robed old man's hand that was about to strike Genshin stopped an inch away from Genshin's chest. He turned his head to look at the figure that was rapidly flying over and frowned slightly. God damn it, I never thought that Genshin would have such a powerful reinforcement. The saint ruler of the sect of Dragon and Tiger Cursed. The tremendous presence that the person radiated shocked him. He was definitely an expert who was even more powerful than him. His strength is similar to mine. He's also at the 5th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler. Situ Ching, looks like only you can deal with Genshin, the blue-robed old man said emotionlessly. The saint ruler of the sect of Dragon and Tiger nodded slightly. He also knew that only the blue-robed old man could deal with the expert that had arrived. I originally thought that Guqiu alone would be enough to keep the two of them busy, while by high end I could easily kill Genshin if we worked together. I never thought that one of them would actually be a golden-striped silver snake of ancient times, keeping Guqiu busy all by himself. If I had known earlier that this brat had such a powerful helper, I would have invited more people over. I don't believe that those people from the Sure family can resist the temptation of tungsten alloy. The saint ruler of the sect of Dragon and Tiger was filled with regret. Genshin's side had gained another 5th heavenly layer saint ruler, so it would be very difficult for them to kill Genshin with their strength today. The ancestor of the Huang family fused with the space around him and used spatial force to travel. His speed was unbelievable. His voice was still far away when he spoke, but he had already arrived before Genshin when he finished speaking. He directly sent a palm strike toward the blue-robed old man with the force of the world. The blue-robed old man remained calm and collected. He also sent a palm strike with the force of the world to receive the attack. Bang! The two palms collided. It was like a bomb had suddenly exploded, producing a deafening sound. The violent ripples of energy swept out in all directions as a gust of wind. The energy of the world and the surroundings became violent. Huang Tianba and the blue-robed old man were on par with each other in terms of strength. Their stalwart bodies were like pillars that supported the heavens as they floated steadily in the air. When the violent shock waves of energy hit them, they were actually unable to move their bodies at all. A while later, the violent ripples of energy finally dispersed. Huang Tianba stood in front of Genshin like a huge stone tablet, separating Genshin from the saint ruler and the blue-robed old man. He then turned his head to look at Genshin. When he saw Genshin's bloodied appearance, his face immediately sank. He asked in concern, "Brother Genshin, are you all right?" Genshin shook his head and bitterly smiled. Fortunately, Senior made it in time. Otherwise, I probably would have been in trouble. It's good that you're fine. Genshin, hurry up and heal. Leave this to me, said Huang Tianba. He then turned his head to look at the battle between newbies and an old man in sackcloth in the distance. He was secretly shocked. Although he did not know who was on his side, their strength was unquestionable. Huang Tianba was very surprised that Jianqin could find such powerful helpers. In the distance, newbies and the old man in sackcloth were still fighting in the air. The two of them fought from the sky to the ground, and then from the ground to the sky. They fought farther and farther away until they were dozens of miles away from the crowd. Their fight was very intense. Every time they clashed, there would be a loud explosion, causing the mountain range below to become a mess. Several tall mountains had collapsed. The battle between Jianqin and the saint ruler of the Dragon Tiger sect had also come to a temporary halt with Huang Tianba's arrival. Both sides faced each other in the air, not in a hurry to attack. Deity, who had been sent flying by the old man in blue, also flew up from below. He quietly floated behind Jianqin. At this moment, his face was pale, and there were still traces of blood at the corner of his mouth. After taking a hit from the old man in blue, he was clearly injured. Huang Tianba, saint ruler of the Huang clan, I didn't think that even you would come. We haven't seen each other for 500 years. I didn't think that your strength would have reached the 5th heavenly layer. The saint ruler of the Dragon Tiger sect sneered at Huang Tianba. The two of them clearly knew each other. Huang Tianba stared coldly at the saint ruler of the Dragon Tiger sect and said, "Situqing, I advise you to apologize to little brother Jianqin obediently and let bygones be bygones. Otherwise, you will be finished sooner or later." A cold light flashed through Situqing's eyes when she heard that. She said, "Huang Tianba, it's still a little too early to say that. It's still unknown whether Jianqin can survive today. Do you think you can change the situation by yourself? And from what I know, your Huang clan situation isn't good either. Your feud won't be easy to deal with. I advise you to withdraw from the battle between me and Jianqin. Otherwise, your Huang clan will have another powerful enemy. Ha 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 ha." Huang Tianba threw his head back and laughed. He stared at the saint kings of the Dragon and Tiger sect mockingly and said, "Situqing, if you said that to me in the past, I might have feared you. But now, those people are no longer a threat to the Huang clan. If they dare come, I can guarantee that they'll suffer the consequences. Is that so? Huang Tianba, I haven't seen you in a few decades. I never thought that you would become more and more arrogant. How dare you look down on my Hongfu clan? I'd like to see what ability you have to make my Hongfu clan suffer the consequences." As soon as Huang Tianba finished speaking, an ancient voice boomed out from the surroundings. The voice was vast and filled with supreme might, echoing through the sky. 10 kilometers away, 2 black-robed old men appeared out of thin air and quickly flew over. The sudden voice startled Huang Tianba. His face immediately turned gloomy. He suddenly turned his head and looked at the 2 black-robed old men who were flying over. He asked in a deep voice, "Why are you here?" Chapter 652. Huang Tianba could not help but sneer when he saw the jade powder in the black-robed old man's hand. He said, "Jin Tian, Jin Feng, looks like it's not just the 2 of you who have come this time. You've probably brought helpers as well." "Huang Tianba, you've guessed correctly. It really isn't just the 2 of us who have come this time. There's a piece of good news that we might have told you before. Our Hongfu clan has already become in-laws with the Yan family. From now on, our 2 families will advance and retreat together. We'll share fortune and misfortune together. The person who has come with us this time is the former patriarch of the Yan family, Yan Nan," sneered a black-robed old man. There were a total of 2 saint rulers in the Hongfu clan, and they were brothers. The old man who had spoken was one of the 2 saint rulers. His name was Jin Tian, and he was a 3rd heavenly layer saint ruler. He also possessed a ruler armament. If he used the ruler armament, he could fight 4th heavenly layer saint rulers. Even if he came across 5th heavenly layer saint rulers, he would still be able to hold his ground. Jin Tian's younger brother, Jin Feng, was a 2nd heavenly layer saint ruler. He also possessed a ruler armament. If he used the ruler armament, his battle prowess would be no weaker than a third heavenly layer Saint Ruler, approaching fourth heavenly layer Saint Rulers. If the two of them worked together, they would be able to contend against fifth heavenly layer Saint Rulers. Jin Tian, Jin Feng, does your Hongfu clan plan on fighting for the tungsten alloy mine as well? Huang Tianba sneered. That's right. That's exactly what we plan on doing. The two experts from the Hongfu clan didn't deny it. Jin Tian opened his mouth and said, "How precious is a tungsten alloy mine? It's 10 times more precious than a purple gold mine. How can our Hongfu clan miss such a huge treasure mountain?" Huang Tianba snorted coldly. Jin Tian, Jin Feng, you're dreaming if you want to fight for the tungsten alloy mine with just your Hongfu clan and Yan family. Don't you know that the captain of the flame mercenaries, Jianqin, is the imperial protector of the Qin Empire? Don't mention the Qin Empire to me. Although our Hongfu clan is a hermit, we don't lack information at all. One of the 3 great empires of the Tianyuan continent, the Holy Emperor Empire, is about to change. As a subordinate country, the Qin Empire will also be affected. Right now, they can't even protect themselves. So how could they have the extra strength to interfere with this matter? Jin Feng expressionlessly said. I didn't expect you to know so much, Huang Tianba said in a deep voice. As soon as Huang Tianba's voice fell, a long whistle came from the distance. A figure shot over from the distance at lightning speed, finally stopping beside Jin Tian and Jin Feng. The 3 of them stood side by side, emitting a shocking aura, causing the air in this space to freeze. This was a middle-aged man who looked to be around 40 years old. He had long hair that reached his waist, fluttering wildly in the violent wind. His figure was very tall and sturdy, with the back of a tiger and the waist of a bear. Coupled with his dark skin, he looked like a fierce black bear. Huang Tianba calmly looked at the middle-aged man and said, Patriarch of the Yen family, your Yen family can completely stay out of this matter. Do you really want to interfere? You need to understand that the tungsten alloy mine is a hot potato. It's not that easy to obtain. With your Yen family and the Hongfu clan's strength, you really don't have the ability to protect the tungsten alloy mine. If you add us in, I wonder if you have the ability to obtain the tungsten alloy mine? The Dragon Tiger Sect's Saint King, Situ Qing, sneered. His gaze shifted to the 3 experts from the Hongfu family and Yan family. He cupped his hands and said, 3 friends, I'm sure you all know that if we were to fight them alone, our strength would be on par with theirs. It wouldn't be easy to win. Why don't we join forces? Once we obtain the tungsten alloy lode, we'll split it 50-50, 50-50. That's great. One of the Saint Rulers from the Hongfu clan agreed without hesitation. He understood the situation clearly. They were the weakest among the 3 forces. If they did not work together, they would not be able to defeat the other 2 forces. Then it's settled. Bai Hai will hold Huang Tianba back for now. The 4 of us will attack together and kill Jianqin first, said Situ Qing. Jianqin had already become a huge problem for him. Although he could suppress Jianqin with his current strength, he could not kill him. If he did not get rid of him soon, he would die at Jianqin's hands sooner or later. All right, then let's act as soon as possible and take over the tungsten alloy mine as soon as possible. Long delays may lead to trouble, said the patriarch of the Yen family calmly. He did not take Jianqin seriously at all. Everyone, please wait for a moment. Just as they were about to act, Jianqin suddenly spoke up. Jianqin, you're about to die. Do you have anything else to say? Situ Qing coldly asked. Jianqin stared at Situ Qing mockingly and said, Saint Ruler of the Dragon and Tiger Sect, do you really think that you can take over the tungsten alloy mine just because you've joined forces with the Hongfu clan and the Yen family? Aren't you a little too naive? A cold light flashed through Situ Qing's eyes. He said, Jianqin, you don't need to worry about that. You should think about your own safety first. Think about how you can escape today's disaster. All right, Then I'll let you see how I escaped today's disaster." Jianchen sneered. He then looked into the distance and loudly said, "Seniors who are hiding in the surroundings, since you've come, why hide? Show yourself." Jianchen's voice was extremely loud. His mighty voice reverberated in the surroundings, lingering for a long time and spreading to a radius of several dozen kilometers. "Ha ha ha ha! Jianchen, as expected of the king of mercenaries who took first place in the last mercenary tournament, you really do have some ability. Not only have you reached such a level at such a young age, but you've even discovered us. Not bad, not bad. You really have a future ahead of you." As soon as Jianchen finished speaking, an old voice followed closely behind. Although the voice was gentle, it resounded through the surroundings. Following the voice, 2 white-robed old men suddenly appeared in the empty space 10 kilometers away. At the same time, 3 more old men appeared several kilometers away from the 2 old men. With the appearance of these 5 people, Situ Qing, who was originally confident of victory, immediately paled. She knew that things were bad. The 3 experts from the Hongfu clan and the Yan clan also became very serious at this moment. The sudden appearance of these 5 experts could easily change the situation of the battle. "Everyone, we've watched enough. There's no need to hide anymore. Everyone come out." An old man with white hair and a youthful face said to the surrounding people with a smile. In the surrounding space, more and more people appeared out of thin air. In just a few breaths of time, there were more than a dozen unknown people in the surroundings. All of them had reached the supreme level of Saint King. These people had been here since the beginning of the battle. They only used special methods to conceal their bodies and watched from several dozen kilometers away. Situ Qing's expression had already become extremely ugly. This was because of the sudden appearance of the experts in the surroundings. Some of them were existences that she could not see through, and to be unable to see through their strength, it had to be a saint ruler of the 6th heavenly layer or above. The sudden appearance of these people caused newbies and the old man to stop fighting. When they sensed the strength of these people, their faces all became stern. Newbies returned to his human form and arrived before Jianchen as a golden streak of light. He stared at the experts in the surroundings and said with a deep voice, "This is troublesome. So many experts have actually come. There are 4 6th heavenly layer saint rulers, and one of them has even reached the 7th heavenly layer. Jianchen, I can't help you now." Jianchen's expression changed slightly when he heard that. He said with a deep voice, "They must have come for the tungsten alloy mine. This tungsten alloy mine really is a hot potato. It's actually attracted so many experts. But don't worry, we're not easy to bully." "That's right. What's there to be afraid of?" Huang Tianba sneered with his arms crossed. A gleam of light flashed through Nubis' eyes when he saw how confident the 2 of them were. He did not say anything else. On the other side, the ashen-faced old man also arrived beside the saint ruler of the Dragon Tiger sect. He said with a deep voice, "Situ Qing, the situation is bad." The saint ruler of the Dragon Tiger sect nodded slightly. He looked at the ashen-faced old man and could not help but ask in concern, "Good Chiu, you should hurry up and get rid of the poison in your body. The venom of this golden-striped silver snake really is powerful. Even a 3rd heavenly layer saint ruler can threaten you." Good Chiu nodded slightly. He did not say anything else and immediately closed his eyes to get rid of the poison in his body. At this moment, the experts in the surroundings gathered together. One of them, a ruddy old man, clasped his hands at Jianchen and smiled. "Old man Jianchen, this is Jian Su beside me. He is also a great elder of the Divine Sword Sect. Jianchen greets you." Greetings to the 2 seniors. Jianchen smiled and clasped his hands at the old man. "The Divine Sword Sect. I never thought that the Divine Sword Sect would actually send people here. This is a powerful sect that is comparable to an ancient clan. It has already existed for several tens of thousands of years." Huang Tianba was slightly surprised and exclaimed in a low voice, Hearing this, Genshin's expression changed slightly. His gaze towards the two old men also changed. "We are from Baihua City. Little brother Genshin, I am Baiyan." A middle-aged man with an elegant temperament clasped his hands at Genshin and said politely. Afterwards, the experts in the surroundings all introduced themselves. All of them had deep backgrounds and were influential figures of powerful forces. Among them, there were even two forces that were comparable to an ancient clan. The seventh heavenly layer Saint King belonged to a force that was comparable to an ancient clan. Although they all had high statuses, they were still polite to Genshin. This was because they had investigated Genshin before and had some understanding of his identity. Adding on his current strength that was comparable to a Saint King, it was enough for them to treat him as an equal. Furthermore, he was a peerless genius with unprecedented talent. Unless it was absolutely necessary, they did not want to offend such a person for no reason. "Seniors, if my guess is correct, you should all be here for the tungsten alloy mine," Genshin said calmly. Brother Genshin is indeed straightforward. Our Baihua City will not beat around the bush and speak frankly. This time, our Baihua City has indeed come for the tungsten alloy mine. We hope that Brother Genshin can bear to part with 20% of the mine to our Baihua City. Of course, our Baihua City will not treat Brother Genshin unfairly and will definitely use other valuable items to exchange for it. The middle-aged man with an elegant temperament, Baiyan, said, "Our divine sword sect also wishes to use valuable items to exchange for some tungsten alloy mines. We hope that Brother Genshin can part with 20% of the mines to our divine sword sect." The divine sword sect's supreme elder, Mo Zimming, said, "Our Nine Sons sect." Afterwards, the various large organizations all raised their own requests. They all wanted to occupy some of the tungsten alloy mines. Originally, they wanted to occupy all of the tungsten alloy mines, but now that the situation was complicated and several large organizations had gathered, no one had the ability to take all of it. As a result, they had no choice but to change their plans. After hearing everyone's requests, Genshin's face became extremely gloomy. Each of the organizations present wanted to occupy 10% to 20% of the mines. Although it was not much, if all of their requests were added together, it would be equivalent to occupying the entire tungsten alloy mine and not leaving anything for him. This was going too far. At this moment, a bell-like voice suddenly rang out. Chapter 653. She was a young woman who only seemed to be in her 20s. She wore a short red skirt with a red belt around her slender waist, perfectly outlining her devilish figure. Her jade-like arms that were exposed to the sunlight were white and tender, shining like precious gems. They were as dazzling as a piece of jade, coupled with her slender, round legs. It was a beautiful sight that could attract the eyes of countless men. She was a woman who was in her 20s. She wore a red short skirt with a red belt around her slender waist, perfectly outlining her devilish figure. Her arms that were exposed to the sunlight were white and tender, shining like precious gems. They were as dazzling as a piece of jade, coupled with her slender, round legs. It was a beautiful sight that could attract the eyes of countless men. Although the woman's appearance could not be described as devastatingly beautiful and could not be compared to Yu and Huang Wan, she was still a natural beauty that was rare in the world, especially her devilish figure and the natural charm that was emitted from her body. She was able to surpass Yu and Huang Wan, who had an advantage in terms of appearance. An old woman and an old man stood to the two sides of the woman. The two of them wore simple clothes, and they had white hair and ruddy complexions. They seemed like an ordinary old couple. "Tianmu Ling, it's actually you." Genshin stared blankly at the woman in red. His face was filled with surprise because she was one of the young geniuses that had participated in the mercenary tournament. Little brother Genshin, I never thought that you would recognize me. I'm really flattered." Tianmu Ling's phoenix eyes shone with a charming light as she stared at Genshin. She touched her lips with her right hand and giggled. Little brother Genshin, I never thought that your strength would reach such a level after not seeing you for a few years. I really find it hard to believe. You can actually fight Saint Rulers without being defeated. I really admire you." With that, Genshin lowered his head and looked at his bloodied body. He bitterly smiled. "Tianmu Ling, don't make fun of me. Although I can fight Saint Rulers right now, I can only be beaten up by them." Tianmu Ling giggled and said, "Little brother Genshin, why don't you just follow me? I'll protect you in the future. Although my strength is nowhere near as great as yours, and I'm still an Earth Saint Master, I can guarantee you that those Saint Rulers won't dare to bully you." Genshin's heart skipped a beat. From what Tianmu Ling had said, he had already guessed that the clan behind her was probably extremely powerful. At the very least, they did not treat the people present with any importance. Genshin glanced past the two old men beside Tianmu Ling. He wondered just how terrifying the strength of the two old men was. God damn it, we're so unlucky. Why are all the people here stronger than the last? The old man beside the girl has already reached the peak of Saint Ruler, only a step away from the Holy Emperor. He's infinitely close to the level of the Holy Emperor, while the old woman has reached the 8th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler. The two of them can stop over a dozen Saint Rulers, newbies grumbled beside Genshin. Genshin was surprised when he heard that. He stared at the two old men beside Tianmu Ling in shock as his heart churned. He could not remain calm at all. He had never thought that Tianmu Ling's organization would be so powerful. Just the two old men were at the 8th and 9th heavenly layer of Saint Rulers. Seeing how Genshin remained silent, Tianmu Ling turned to the two old men beside her. She grabbed one of the old men's arms and said coquettishly, "Grandpa Jun, Granny Wang, you have to help little brother Genshin, or I'll ignore you in the future." He, all right. We'll definitely help. Great-granddaughter, as long as your little brother Genshin is willing to cooperate with us, we'll definitely help him. The old man, referred to as Grandpa Jun, looked at Tianmu Ling lovingly. His eyes were filled with undisguised affection. Clearly, Tianmu Ling held a very important position in his heart. This young man really is not bad. He's neither arrogant nor rash. He's not as arrogant as the disciples of other clans, and his talent is very high as well. His potential is tremendous, and most importantly, he's extremely handsome. He's a good match for our Ling. I like him, the old woman called Granny Wang nodded with a smile. Granny Wang, don't speak nonsense. There's nothing between your great-granddaughter and Genshin. It's not like what you're imagining. Tianmu Ling pouted unhappily. The old woman smiled lovingly. Yes. I'm overthinking things. I won't speak nonsense anymore. Great-granddaughter, please don't be angry at me. Of course not. Tianmu Ling smiled proudly, then turned to Genshin. She waved her hand and said, "Little brother Genshin, come to us. Grandpa Jun and Granny Wang will protect you." Genshin looked at Tianmu Ling and said, "Tianmu Ling, you must have come for the tungsten alloy mine, right?" "Young man, you're straightforward. I like it." "That's right. We've come all the way here for the tungsten alloy mine." "Young man, this tungsten alloy mine isn't something that you can monopolize, because you don't have the ability to do so. Why don't you give half of the tungsten alloy mine to our Tianmu clan? We'll naturally protect you and take on some of the other troubles for you." "I wonder if you're willing," the old woman said. Upon hearing the Tianmu clan, everyone's expression changed. "You're actually from the Tianmu clan. I never thought that even people from the Tianmu clan would come," a great elder from the Divine Sword sect said with a solemn expression. Huang Tianba, who was standing beside Genshin, also became serious when he heard the Tianmu clan. He said in a low voice, "The tungsten alloy mine is truly enticing. I never thought that even the Tianmu clan would come. The Tianmu clan is a true ancient clan. They're extremely powerful, and they even have the Holy Emperor." The Holy Emperor! Genshin gasped when he heard the name, Holy Emperor. An existence like that was akin to a god on the Tianyuan continent. I never thought that even an ancient clan would come. A clan like that can already challenge the Gilligan clan. Newbies also gasped and sighed. Little brother Gentian, the tungsten alloy mine is extremely precious. You can't give it to anyone, not even a little bit. Huang Tianba whispered to Gentian. Little brother Gentian, you can't listen to that old man. The tungsten alloy mine is very precious, but you're occupying such a large mine all by yourself. This will make many people jealous. If you don't have the corresponding strength, you'll only attract trouble for yourself. Why don't you follow me and cooperate with our Tianmu clan? Tianmu Ling said in a delicate voice. The people in the surroundings didn't make a sound. Although they also had quite a large force behind them, they could only be considered as hermit clans. Compared to the Tianmu clan, they weren't even worth mentioning. However, their eyes were filled with unwillingness. They really didn't want to see such a large treasure trove slip away from them. I never thought that people from your Tianmu clan would come as well. June, Mo Heo, Wang Yinhong, I never thought that the two of you would be leading the group. At this moment, another old voice rang out. Two old men with white hair and ruddy complexions flew over from afar. In the end, they stopped 500 meters away from the group. Seeing the two old men that Tianmu Ling referred to as Grandpa Jun and Grandma Wang frowned at the same time. Grandma Wang said, Aoyan clan, you've actually come as well. You should also be here for the tungsten alloy mine. What? They're from the Aoyan clan? Huang Tianba was shocked. He stared at the two old men from the Aoyan clan and whispered, I've only heard of the Aoyan clan before. This is the first time I've seen them. The Aoyan clan is also an ancient clan. They're as famous as the Tianmu clan. I never thought that two ancient clans that are rarely seen in thousands of years would actually come today. Another powerful enemy. Those two old men are at the 9th or 7th heavenly layer of Saint Rulers, Newbie said with a bitter expression. The number of experts present was increasing, and the situation was becoming more and more complicated. It had already escalated from a battle between hermit clans to a battle between ancient clans. That's right. We've indeed come for the tungsten alloy mine this time. Our Aoyan clan must take a portion of the tungsten alloy mine, said one of the old men from the Aoyan clan. It's a pity that you've come too late. Our Tianmu clan has already taken half of the tungsten alloy mine. The remaining half belongs to Gentian. There's no share for you, said the old woman beside Tianmu Ling. Hearing that, the two old men from the Aoyan clan's faces sank. They stared sharply at the blood-soaked Gentian. One of the old men proudly said, You should be Gentian, right? Since the Tianmu clan has already taken half of the mine, then give the other half to our Aoyan clan. Our Aoyan clan will definitely not treat you unfairly. What did the Tianmu clan give you? Our Aoyan clan can also afford it. Jian Chen's complexion had already become extremely ugly. This Aoyan clan was really too much. They actually wanted to swallow all the mineral resources in his hands in one gulp. Your Aoyan clan is an ancient clan after all. You can't go too far. This mine belongs to little brother Gentian. Yet you're not leaving anything for him. That's going too far. Tianmu Ling frowned and said with dissatisfaction. The two old men from the Aoyan clan's faces changed at the same time. They both stared sharply at Tianmu Ling. Intense killing intent flickered in their eyes as they growled. A mere Earth Saint Master dares to criticize our Aoyan clan? Are you tired of living? Humph. If you dare touch a single hair on my great-granddaughter, the two of you can forget about leaving today. Jun Moheo took a step forward and stood in front of Tianmu Ling. An extremely vast presence radiated from his body, causing everyone below the 5th heavenly layer to find it difficult to breathe. It was as if a huge mountain was pressing down on their chests. 9th heavenly layer Saint Rulers had already reached the peak of this realm. They were only a step away from the Holy Emperor. Just the presence of such a powerful existence was enough to cause great pressure to those below the fifth heavenly layer. Chapter 654. What? You want to fight against us with just the two of you? Jun-Emo Hao sneered and continued. So what if you're an Earth Saint Master? I, Jun-Emo Hao, will tell you this. If you dare to bully my good granddaughter, then don't even think of leaving today. Even if you call for reinforcements from the clan, you won't be able to change the outcome. The faces of the two experts from the Aoyun clan became ugly. They were peak 7th heavenly layer saint rulers being humiliated like this. It was indeed a loss of face for them, and they couldn't find a way out. However, the other party was stronger than them, so they could only helplessly endure it. They didn't dare to say anything. Otherwise, if they were to vent their anger on Jun-Emo Hao, then the two of them would be doomed. After all, the other party wasn't just one person. There was also Wang Yinhong, who was stronger than them. The two saint rulers from the Aoyun clan deeply stared at Tianmu Ling, who stood between the two old men. They felt a little surprised inside. They never thought that a mere Earth Saint Master would actually make two experts love her so much. For her, they didn't even hesitate to start a war with the two of them. It had to be known that this was a huge matter that could cause conflict between the two clans. The two old men from the Aoyun clan took a deep breath and slowly calmed down. They then turned to Genshin and said in a deep voice, Genshin, are you willing to give the remaining half of the tungsten alloy vein to our Aoyun clan? Don't worry, our Aoyun clan is an ancient clan. We won't treat you unfairly. Perhaps it was because he had just been angered by Genshin, but his face was a little gloomy. A dangerous light flickered in his sharp eyes as he looked at Genshin. He tried to use his eyes to threaten Genshin and make him retreat. Genshin was very dissatisfied with the Aoyun clan's attitude. Genshin expressionlessly stared at him and said, Sorry, I can't give half of the tungsten alloy vein to your Aoyun clan. Genshin, you have to carefully think about the consequences of doing this. You should carefully consider it. We'll give you the time it takes to brew a cup of tea. Another old man from the Aoyun clan said with an ugly expression on his face. Genshin decisively shook his head and said, There is no need to think about it. I have already made up my mind. I will not give the tungsten alloy mine to your Aoyun family. Little brother Genshin, you don't have to be afraid of the Aoyun clan. If they dare to bully you, our Tianmu clan won't sit idly by. Tianmu Ling lightly smiled. Hearing this, Genshin bitterly smiled and turned to look at Tianmu Ling. Genshin is very grateful for Miss Tianmu Ling's help, but I have the ability to protect the tungsten alloy mine, so I won't trouble you. At this point, Genshin paused and hesitated for a moment before continuing. However, this one does not intend to share the tungsten alloy mine. If the Tianmu clan needs it, we will definitely offer some to you after we mine the tungsten alloy ores. Genshin's last sentence made Jun-Emo Hao and Wang Yanhong's expressions change at the same time. Ha 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 ha, I thought that your Tianmu clan had really occupied half of the tungsten alloy load. Who would have thought that the result would be like this? An elder from the Aoyun clan laughed involuntarily. Genshin, why, there's something wrong with why your head, right? I've spent so much effort to allow you to keep half of the ore vein. I never expected you to not appreciate it. Do you know that if it wasn't for me, you wouldn't even be able to get a single ore vein? Tianmu Ling shouted in exasperation. She had already lost her usual composure. She knew that if Genshin made the two elders beside her unhappy, it would be very troublesome. Ha ha ha! Since Genshin wants to monopolize the tungsten alloy load, why don't we kill him first? Once he dies, the tungsten alloy load will become ownerless. At that time, your Aoyun clan and the Tianmu clan can each take half of it. Moreover, there won't be any unpleasant conflicts. The Dragon Tiger Sect Saint King, Situqing, suddenly spoke. Now that the ancient families had interfered, they had no way of contending with them. Thus, he had already given up on the tungsten alloy load. He only wanted to kill Genshin. That was the most important thing. That's a good suggestion. The two elders from the Aoyun clan nodded at the same time and agreed with Situ Ching. Situ Ching revealed a cold smile and said, "There is no need for the respected ancient families to take action to kill Jianchen. In that case, let me do it for you. Guqiu, you stall that demonic beast. Jin Tian and Jin Feng, the two of you deal with Huang Tianba. Bai Hai, you and I will work together to kill Jianchen." "That's good. Huang Tianba, the grudges between our clans have been accumulating for thousands of years. Now, it's time to put an end to it. As long as you die, your Huang clan will also be destroyed." Jin Tian laughed. Soon after, a 2-finger-wide sword appeared in his hand. The blade of the sword was bright and radiant, emitting a layer of hazy white light. With the appearance of the sword, the light in the world seemed to become brighter. Following that, an incomparably large wave of energy suddenly burst out from the sword. It was as if an ancient beast that had fallen into a deep slumber was about to awaken. The energy in the world suddenly became docile, as if it was afraid. "That's a king weapon," Jetta Tai said in a deep voice. "A king weapon." Jianchen's heart skipped a beat. His eyes sparkled as he stared at the long sword in Jin Tian's hand. Compared to his light wind sword, the sword's shape and size were quite different. However, it was infinitely close to the light wind sword. Most importantly, it was a king weapon that could withstand the power of primal chaos. Jianchen's heart began to beat uncontrollably as he looked at the sword with an undisguised desire. This king weapon, I must obtain it no matter what. Jianchen shouted in his heart. He was so excited that his fists were tightly clenched. Wanting to find a king weapon that suited him was not an easy task. A 5-meter-long spear appeared in Jin Feng's hand. It emitted a powerful energy. This was also a king weapon. Not only did the Hongfu clan have 2 Saint Kings, they also had 2 king weapons. The old man in linen clothes had already taken the initiative to look for newbies and delay him while Situ Ching and Bai Hai rushed towards Jianchen. They planned to join hands and kill Jianchen in the shortest amount of time possible. The experts from the Aoyun clan and the Tianmu clan chose to stand aside and not interfere. They planned to let Situ Ching and the others kill Jianchen. That way, the tungsten alloy mine would become ownerless. Then, the 2 clans would be able to properly divide it between themselves. Moreover, it wouldn't cause any conflict between the 2 clans, so why not? "Grandpa Jun, Grandma Wang, you must help Jianchen. He is definitely not a match for those people." Tianmu Ling hugged the 2 elders' arms and begged, "Good granddaughter, you can't blame your great-grandfather and great-grandmother for this. Originally, we were willing to help him, but he doesn't know what's good for him and wants to monopolize the tungsten alloy mine. Since that's the case, then let him taste the consequences of monopolizing it." Jun Emohao said. Hearing this, Tianmu Ling could only sigh in disappointment. She knew that it was already impossible for her to convince Jun Emo how to help Jianchen. Jianchen, prepare to die. On the other side, Situ Ching rushed towards Jianchen with killing intent. This time, with Bai Hai's help, he was confident that he could kill Jianchen. However, at this moment, the space around Jianchen suddenly froze, trapping Situ Ching and the blue-robed old man who were rushing towards Jianchen. In the next moment, the space around Jianchen began to violently fluctuate. In the blink of an eye, it formed a space gate. A middle-aged man in white robes stepped out of the space gate and stood beside Jianchen in an ordinary manner. He did not give off a shocking aura. He seemed as ordinary as an ordinary person. Even so, he gave off a feeling of being one with the world, as if he was the entire world. This person was Ming Dong's Uncle Tian, as well as the great elder of Mercenary City, Tian Jian. Jianchen greets Senior. Seeing the middle-aged man, Jianchen immediately bowed respectfully. He was not surprised by Tian Jian's appearance at all. Faced with the current situation, he knew that the Huang family's patriarch would definitely use the piece of jade that Tian Jian had left for him. Chapter 655. Tianjin's sudden appearance shocked all the saint rulers present. At that moment, the two sides who were about to engage in battle could not help but control themselves. They hovered in the air as they stared at Tianjin in shock and disbelief, tearing open space to form a spatial door. This was a divine ability that only saint emperors possessed. This middle-aged man in white robes was actually a supreme existence that surpassed the saint ruler realm. Jin Tian and Jin Feng from the Hongfu clan also stared at Tianjin in shock. Their gazes then landed on Huang Tianba, who was bowing. Their faces became unsettled, and they became extremely stern at that moment. Their sworn enemy, Huang Tianba, was actually acquainted with such an expert. This was extremely bad news for the Hongfu clan. I never thought that Jianqin would actually have the support of the Holy Emperor. The pale-faced Deity stared at Tianjin in fear. His heart was in turmoil. The Holy Emperor was a supreme existence that could look down on ancient clans. Once he had the support of the Holy Emperor, the ancient clans would have nothing to fear. Situ Qing and Bai Hai, who had been trapped in the frozen space, regained their ability to move. The two of them stared at Tianjin in fear, no longer daring to attack Jianqin. Situ Qing, in particular, had already been scared out of her wits. Tianjin hovered in the air like an ordinary middle-aged man, as if he had become one with the world. If one did not pay attention, it would be very easy to overlook his existence. He glanced around with an emotionless gaze, and his gaze lingered on Jianqin for a while longer. In the end, he fixed his gaze on the mountain range below. A strange light finally appeared in his ordinary eyes. He said, "I never thought that there would be such a large tungsten alloy mine here." Jianqin's group had originally been fighting in the air above the city, but as the battle progressed, they had already left the city and appeared in the sparsely populated mountains. They just happened to be above the tungsten alloy mine. "Senior, this tungsten alloy mine originally belonged to me, but now there are suddenly so many people who want to snatch it away. They want to take the tungsten alloy mine that belongs to me as their own. I am alone and am powerless to deal with them. Senior, please uphold justice for me." Jianqin clasped his hands at Tianjin. He was begging because he knew that if he wanted to keep the tungsten alloy mine intact, he could only ask Tianjin for help. There was no other way. Tianjin calmly glanced at the saint rulers in the surroundings. He gently waved his hand and said, "You can all disperse. Return to where you came from." Although Tianjin didn't say it clearly, everyone understood that he wanted to help Jianqin keep the tungsten alloy mine. The saint rulers of the hermit clans naturally didn't dare to say anything. With their strength, they didn't dare to offend a holy emperor. However, the two ancient clans wouldn't obey so easily. "Senior, we're from the Tianmu clan. We've come all the way here to obtain a portion of the tungsten alloy mine. How can we leave so easily just because of Senior's words?" Jun Moheo clasped his hands. Although he was facing a holy emperor, he wasn't afraid at all. It wasn't like the Tianmu clan didn't have any holy emperor experts, so they were confident. "Sir, our Aoyan clan won't be scared by your words. Our Aoyan clan must occupy a portion of this tungsten alloy mine no matter what." An expert from the Aoyan clan clasped his hands and said, "Senior, since you're standing by Jianqin's side, our strength can be considered equal. Since that's the case, let's each take a step back. We'll split the tungsten alloy mine into 3. Our Aoyan clan, the Tianmu clan, and you will each take a portion. How about this?" Another elder from the Aoyan clan said. Tianjin frowned slightly and said, "I don't want to repeat myself." This time, Tianjin's voice had become cold. Seeing that Tianjin was willing to help him, Jianqin's heart finally relaxed. With Tianjin supporting him, the pressure from the two ancient clans had disappeared without a trace. "Senior, you're going too far," an expert of the Aoyan clan said. A jade stone quietly appeared in his right hand, and he crushed it without any hesitation. I never thought that Genshin would have such a powerful figure supporting him. With just the two of us, we won't be able to fight for anything. It seems like we'll have to inform the old patriarch. Wang Yinhong from the Tianmu clan said in a low voice. That's the only way. Jun Moheo nodded in agreement. A jade stone appeared in his hand, and he crushed it as well to inform the experts of his clan. Holy Emperor experts could directly tear through space to travel. In front of Holy Emperor experts, there was no distance to speak of. After the jade stones were crushed, 2 breaths of time passed before the space around them began to fluctuate violently. In an instant, a spatial gate was formed. Chapter 656. The Holy Emperor experts of the Aoyun clan and Tianmu clan arrived at the same time. They tore open a space gate and hurried over from afar. Although both Tianmu and Tianjin were holy emperors, the appearance of the holy emperor of the 2 ancient clans was clearly much more grandiose than Tianjin's. The pressure of a saint ruler completely radiated from him, making all the saint rulers present feel extremely pressured. It was completely different from Tianjin's plain appearance. A white-robed old man and a gray-robed old man stepped out of the space gate at the same time. The 2 old men were over 70 years old. They had white hair and ruddy complexions. Their gazes were as deep as the starry sky, as if they could make people lose their souls in their gazes. The 2 of them stood at the very front of their clans. Their old bodies seemed like eternal monuments, giving everyone a strange feeling that they were unbreakable. It was as if they were the most powerful in the world. We greet the previous patriarch. We greet the great elder. The 2 saint rulers from the Aoyun clan and Tianmu clan bowed to their respective saint kings. They were extremely respectful and immediately recounted everything that had happened in detail. At this moment, the saint rulers of the hermit clans had all retreated far away without needing any orders. All of them had completely given up on the idea of getting a share of the tungsten alloy mine. They had no interest in the enormous tungsten alloy mine. Due to the interference of the ancient clans and the arrival of the 2 holy emperor experts, they had long been stripped of their right to compete. The experts of the 2 ancient clans understood the situation very quickly. They immediately gathered their gazes on the white-robed Tianjin, who did not give off any aura at all. "Sir, may I ask who you are?" He spoke indifferently. Even though he could not tell Tianjin's exact strength, he did not take it to heart. If a saint king purposefully hid his presence, even people more powerful than him would struggle to see through him. Tianjin's expression was extremely calm. Even though he could not tell Tianjin's exact strength, he did not take it to heart because if a saint king purposefully hid his presence, even people more powerful than him would struggle to tell. Who I am is not important. This tungsten alloy mine does not belong to you. You can all leave, Tianjin said calmly. Tianjin said calmly. From the looks of it, he did not care about the utmost experts from the 2 ancient aristocratic families at all. Tianjin's words caused the face of the Tianmu clan's expert to darken slightly. Tianjin's casual tone made it seem as if he didn't put him, a saint emperor, in his eyes at all. This made him a little angry. Although Tianjin's tone was calm, his words were overbearing. He actually wanted the Tianmu clan and the Aoyun clan to retreat with a single sentence. He didn't give the 2 ancient clans any face at all. In the distance, the saint rulers of the hermit clans looked at each other. All of them were trying to guess Tianjin's identity and strength. In the entire Tianyuan continent, there were not many people who dared to speak to the 2 ancient clans in such a manner. Moreover, he did so in front of the experts of the 2 ancient clans. The expression of the Aoyun clan's expert changed as well. He glared at Tianjin and said in a deep voice, "Aren't you being too arrogant? You actually want our 2 clans to withdraw with just a few words. Don't tell me that you think you can stop our Aoyun clan and the Tianmu clan by yourself?" Tianjin placed his hands behind his back and said, I originally did not want to attack you, but it seems that if I don't do this, you won't leave on your own accord. How arrogant! Since you are so confident in your strength, then let this old man experience it. The expert of the Aoyun clan sneered. Shortly after, he clenched his fist, and the energy of the world gathered toward him at an unbelievable speed. He then threw a punch at Tianjin. The energy of the world was the most powerful energy that Saint-level experts could control. It was even more powerful than Saint Force. Although the energy of the world was formless and intangible, its strength was unquestionable. Tianjin still stood there with his hands behind his back. He had no intention of attacking. Suddenly, a golden beam of light shot out from his eyes. It shot toward the holy emperor of the Aoyun clan as fast as lightning. The golden beam of light that shot out from Tianjin's eyes contained an unbelievable amount of energy. It easily pierced through the energy of the world that was surging toward him, scattering it. After that, the beam of light continued to shoot toward the holy emperor of the Aoyun clan without slowing down at all. Pooh! The golden beam of light struck the chest of the holy emperor of the Aoyun clan. The body of the holy emperor was as weak as a piece of tofu in front of the golden beam of light. 2 finger-sized holes appeared on his chest. 2 streams of blood spurted out from the body of the holy emperor of the Aoyun clan. Looking at the 2 holes in his chest, the holy emperor of the Aoyun clan was completely stunned. His face was filled with disbelief and shock. The eyes of the expert of the Tianmu clan were as big as copper bells. He stared at the holes in the chest of the holy emperor of the Aoyun clan. His face was filled with disbelief, and his heart was in turmoil. The surrounding Saint Ruler experts were all dumbfounded as they stared at the wounds on the holy emperor's body. Their faces were filled with shock. This scene was too unbelievable. Even though it happened right in front of their eyes, they still couldn't believe that it was real. A supreme expert who had reached the level of the holy emperor was injured so easily. The 2 saint kings of the Aoyun clan quickly reacted. Their faces were pale as they stared at the injured great elder. They even stuttered as they spoke. Their great elder was a holy emperor. Even with the entire continent in perspective, he was an existence that stood at the very apex, yet he had been injured by an unknown person so effortlessly. This was just too unbelievable. The holy emperor of the Aoyun clan acted as if he didn't hear the words of the 2 behind him. He stared at the ordinary-looking Tianjin in shock and asked with a trembling voice, You, who are you? The holy emperor of the Aoyun clan stared at Tianjin with eyes filled with fear. At this moment, he no longer dared to look at Tianjin the same way he did before. The holy emperor of the Tianmu clan had also completely retracted his aura. He stared at Tianjin in shock and fear, his heart extremely unsettled. A supreme expert of the level of the holy emperor had actually been injured so easily. He found it hard to believe. Newbies and Deity also stared at Tianjin in shock. Their faces were filled with fear. The strength that Tianjin had displayed had shocked them, especially newbies. At this moment, not a single trace of arrogance could be seen on his face. The ancestor of the Huang family, Huang Tianba, looked around in high spirits. He then said to Deity and newbies, "This senior is the great elder of Mercenary City. Why aren't the 2 of you bowing?" Although he was talking to Deity and newbies, he did not bother hiding his voice at all. He was clearly announcing Tianjin's identity to everyone present. What? He's the great elder of Mercenary City. The words great elder of Mercenary City shocked everyone present. Even the holy emperor of the 2 ancient clans were no exception. The saint rulers of the hermit clans were stunned for a moment before they all bowed respectfully to Tianjin and said in unison, "Juniors greet the great elder!" Juniors greet senior. Deity and newbies also bowed respectfully to Tianjin. At this moment, their hearts were beating uncontrollably. They were extremely excited. They never thought that Jianchen would actually have the support of the Great Elder of Mercenary City. Chapter 657. The Holy Emperor of the Tianmu clan also stared at the ordinary-looking Tian Jian in disbelief. He found it very hard to believe that the person before him was actually the Grand Elder of Mercenary City. What he found even more unbelievable was that the owner of the tungsten alloy mine, Jianchen, actually had such a powerful person supporting him. Just what kind of status was the Grand Elder of Mercenary City? He was the supreme leader of the entire city, the person with the greatest authority among the upper echelon of Mercenary City. He controlled all the experts and several dozen saint rulers in the city, so his status was not something the ancestor of an ancient clan could compare to, not to mention how powerful Mercenary City was. Just the strength of the Great Elder of Mercenary City had already reached an extremely terrifying level. In front of such an expert, their Tianmu clan and Aoyan clan were so weak that they couldn't even fight back. How is this possible? Jianchen actually knows the Grand Elder of Mercenary City. Tianmu Ling stared at Jianchen blankly. Her face was filled with shock. Even though she was only an Earth Saint Master, as a member of an ancient clan, she knew much more than ordinary people. She understood extremely well what the Grand Elder of Mercenary City represented. He was the absolute ruler of the Tianyuan continent. Sigh. Jun Moheo calmed down very quickly. He gently sighed and murmured, I never thought that he would actually invite the Grand Elder of Mercenary City. We're done for now. The only people who dare to challenge Mercenary City on the Tianyuan continent are probably the legendary Protector clans. Ling, this friend of yours is not as simple as you imagine him to be. I never thought that he would actually be able to invite the Grand Elder of Mercenary City. Unbelievable, unbelievable. Now, who would still dare to take a share of the tungsten alloy mine? Wang Yinheng said to the stunned Tianmu Ling. The Saint King of the Tianmu clan took a deep breath and looked at Tian Jian with some fear. He clasped his hands and said, I am Tian Muyuan. Greetings to the Grand Elder. I never thought that the Grand Elder would appear here today. This is truly a shock. If the Tianmu clan has offended you before, I hope that the Grand Elder will be magnanimous and forgive us. This time, the tone of the Tianmu Heavenly King changed a lot. He was no longer as confident as before and was much more subservient. Facing the Great Elder of Mercenary City, Tian Muyuan indeed had no right to be arrogant. It's fine. Don't get greedy for this tungsten alloy mine. That way there won't be any problems, Sky Sword said calmly. Since the Great Elder has said so, our Tianmu clan will definitely not have any more thoughts about the tungsten alloy lode. Our Tianmu clan will leave immediately, Tian Muyuan said before bidding farewell to Sky Sword. He directly tore through space and disappeared with the two saint rulers and Tianmu Ling. Great Elder, please don't take my previous disrespectful actions to heart. I, Aoyun Qingping, apologized to the Great Elder. The Holy Emperor of the Aoyun clan had completely restrained his temper. He respectfully bowed to Sky Sword. He knew that if he didn't handle the matter properly today, even if Sky Sword didn't blame him, it would still greatly affect the Aoyun clan. This was because the person he had offended was the Great Elder of Mercenary City. Even on the Tianyuan continent, such a person could be counted on one hand. Go back to where you came from. This is the last time I will say it, Sky Sword said emotionlessly. His tone was very calm, without the slightest trace of emotion. Yes, our Aoyun clan will leave immediately. We swear that we will never interfere with the tungsten alloy mine again. The Holy Emperor of the Aoyun clan hurriedly said. He then tore through space and left with the two experts of his clan. In the blink of an eye, the two holy emperors who had been so aggressive before left with their people, dejectedly. They didn't even dare to say a word. With their departure, only the saint rulers of the hermit clans and the saint ruler of the Dragon Tiger sect, Situqing, and the others remained. Esteemed Great Elder, Our divine sword sect will never interfere with the tungsten alloy mine. Esteemed Great Elder, our White Birch City also swears that we will never interfere with the tungsten alloy mine." After that, the hermit sects present all expressed their stance. Everyone swore solemnly that they would definitely not covet the tungsten alloy mine. In front of the Great Elder of Mercenary City, even the extremely powerful ancient aristocratic families had retreated, let alone them. After experiencing this matter, they understood that the captain of the flame mercenaries, Jianqin, was a person that could not be provoked. Although they did not place his strength in their eyes, the person behind him was a person that could shake the entire Tianyuan continent with a single stomp of his foot. This time, Jianqin had become completely famous among the hermit clans. Afterward, the saint rulers of the hermit clans all bid farewell to Jianqin amicably before leaving. However, the expressions of Situqing and the others became extremely ugly. They never thought that there would be so many variables in their original plan. In particular, the arrival of the Great Elder of Mercenary City at the very end had frightened Situqing and the two saint rulers of the Hongfu clan. "What are you standing there for? Let's go." Situqing was the first to react. He hurriedly whispered to the others before turning around and fleeing into the distance. In the blink of an eye, he had fled over 10 kilometers away. At that moment, Situqing had already raised his speed to the limit. He knew that if he stayed behind, he would definitely die. The two saint rulers from the Hongfu clan, the blue-robed Baihai and the linen-clothed Guqiu, did not hesitate at all. They all fled into the distance as quickly as they could. "Where do you think you're going? Stop them!" Jianqin yelled out as he chased after Situqing. "Jin Tian, Jin Feng, do you think it'll be so easy for you to leave just like that? Why don't you stay behind and resolve the grievances between our clans?" Huang Tianba chuckled aloud. A golden bow had already appeared in his hand. He directly aimed it at the fleeing Jin Tian and Jin Feng and shot an arrow at them. "Old man, our battle isn't over yet." Newbies yelled out as he turned into a golden ray of light and chased after Guqiu. Jeditai was not willing to fall behind either. He chased after the blue-robed old man Baihai who had injured him earlier. Although his strength was far inferior to his opponent's, he no longer had anything to fear now that he had the support of an incomparably terrifying person. So, two golden energy arrows streaked across the sky at lightning speed, chasing after Jin Feng and Jin Tian. How could the arrows shot out by King Armaments be so simple? The two energy arrows had completely locked onto the auras of the two people, making it impossible for them to shake them off. Jin Tian and Jin Feng's speed did not decrease in the slightest. At the same time, they took out their king armaments to disperse the golden energy arrows that were chasing after them. Then, they continued to flee without slowing down. On the other side, the strongest Guqiu had already disappeared into the horizon, escaping from everyone's sight. Newbies could only helplessly return after failing to catch him. After all, the difference in strength between the two of them was just too great. Their comprehension of space was on a completely different level. Jianqin also did not manage to catch up to Situqing, allowing her to successfully escape. He could only return with a gloomy expression. Chapter 658. Newbies and Jianqin failed to catch up to their opponents, while Huang Tianba did not continue to chase after the two fleeing saint rulers. Instead, he aimed his bow at Baihai and directly shot an arrow. Swish! The golden energy arrow turned into a streak of light and chased after Baihai with extreme speed. The arrow had completely locked onto Baihai's presence, so no matter how he changed directions, he was unable to shake off the arrow that was chasing after him. Even though Baihai was very fast, he was unable to move faster than the energy arrow from the ruler armament. In just a few seconds, the golden energy arrow had caught up to him. Seeing that he could not dodge, Baihai directly turned around and swatted at the energy arrow with his palm. Boundless energy surged out from his palm, causing the surrounding space to violently tremble as if it was about to collapse from the pressure. Bai Hai's palm strike was very powerful, but the ruler armament was left behind by a ninth heavenly layer Saint Ruler, so it was extremely powerful. Not to mention that the arrow had been shot out by Huang Tianba, who was at the same level as him. Its power was incomparable to the attack Huang Wan had shot out during the mercenary tournament, so it was not something that could be blocked so easily. The golden energy arrow pierced through Bai Hai's energy attack like a hot knife through butter, and continued straight for Bai Hai's face without slowing down at all. A sliver of surprise flashed through Bai Hai's eyes when he saw that. He could not help but cry out, "It's actually a ruler armament." Although he was a little surprised, Bai Hai's movements were not slow. A 1-meter-long, 1-foot-wide broadsword appeared in his hand, and he swung it forward with lightning speed. Wherever the broadsword passed, a pitch-black fissure was cut open in the space. Boom! The sword and the golden energy arrow collided, erupting with a great boom. Violent ripples of energy wreaked havoc in the surroundings, filling the entire region and causing the surroundings to change color. As Bai Hai did not possess a ruler armament, it was rather difficult for him to block the attack. Even though he was as powerful as the 2 Saint Rulers from the Hongfu clan, he was nowhere near as powerful as them when it came to forcefully blocking an attack from a ruler armament. If he wanted to easily block an attack from a ruler armament, he would have to use a ruler armament of the same level unless he was far more powerful than the person wielding the weapon. Bai Hai retreated a certain distance in a rather horrible manner. He stared at Huang Tianba, who was about to shoot a second arrow at him, and said nothing. He turned around and continued to flee into the distance. "Where do you think you're going?" "Stay here." However, Bai Hai's delay allowed Deity to catch up. Deity aggressively blocked Bai Hai's path and swung his saint weapon at Bai Hai. He had been heavily injured by Bai Hai's palm strike earlier, and he was still holding a grudge over it. Whoosh! At the same time, Huang Tianba's second arrow was released. The golden energy arrow turned into a streak of golden light as it streaked across the sky like a bolt of lightning. Sensing the unimaginable speed of the arrow behind him, Bai Hai's expression turned serious. He dodged Deity's attack and reappeared a few thousand meters away. Boundless blue saint force surged out of his body as he shouted, "Traceless water of turquoise, 4th style, peril rebirth!" Bai Hai's entire body was enveloped by the blue light, making it impossible to see his figure. From the outside, one could only see a ball of blue light floating in the air. Whoosh! The golden energy arrow pierced through the blue circle and disappeared into the horizon. The blue circle slowly dissipated as well, but the people who were originally inside it had disappeared without a trace. Damn it, he actually escaped. Deity gritted his teeth as he saw this scene. He was extremely unwilling to accept this outcome. In the distance, Huang Tianba slowly lowered the longbow in his hand as he stared at the spot where Bai Hai had disappeared. He sighed, "What a miraculous escape technique. He actually managed to escape the lock-on of my Sun Moon bow. It's a pity that we didn't manage to catch a single one of them," Newbies said regretfully. He then turned his head to look at Sky Sword, who was still standing there with his hands behind his back. He knew that if the great elder of Mercenary City was willing to take action, none of those people would have been able to escape. On the other side, Jianchen was completely stunned. He stared blankly in the direction where Bai Hai had disappeared in. Traceless aqua, traceless aqua. Isn't that the battle technique passed down in the Bai family? How does that person know it? Jianchen murmured softly as his expression became extremely complicated. The traceless aqua battle technique was created by the ancestor of the Bai family. It has a total of 3 layers. The first layer is a human tier battle technique, the second layer is an earth tier battle technique, and the third layer is a heaven tier battle technique. That old man actually used the 4th layer of the traceless aqua battle technique. Could it be? Could it be? Jianchen began to tremble as a thought that he did not dare to accept appeared in his head. Suddenly, Jianchen turned his head and stared at Deity, newbies, and the others. He asked loudly, "What is the name of that blue-robed holy king?" Jianchen's voice was a little hurried. Huang, Tianba, Deity, and newbies all stared at Jianchen strangely. They could not understand why Jianchen would suddenly become so emotional. He should be called by Hai. I heard the Dragon Tiger Sect's holy king call him that, Deity said. Chapter 659. Huang Tianba arrived before Jianchen and stared at him strangely. He asked, "Brother Jianchen, what's wrong? Is there something wrong with that by Hai person? Or have you had some sort of conflict with him in the past? Don't worry. If he's your enemy, I'll help you deal with him. His strength may be on par with mine, but he doesn't have a ruler armament. He's not my opponent at all. I don't fear two people like him at the same time." Jianchen gently shook his head and said nothing. As soon as he thought about Bai Hai's identity, his emotions became mixed. He felt both excited and uneasy. "Jianchen!" A calm voice suddenly rang out, rousing Jianchen from his thoughts. Jianchen followed the voice and saw Tianjian looking at him with interest. Jianchen dismissed his emotions and clasped his hands at Tianjian. "Thank you for your assistance today, Senior. Otherwise, it would have been very difficult for Jianchen to protect this tungsten alloy mine." Jianchen, this tungsten alloy mine is extremely large, and it's extremely rare on the Tianyuan continent. It's your fortune to be able to discover it. I've just checked, and the core of the tungsten alloy mine has already developed origin essence. It's an extremely rare treasure of the world, and it can assist 9th heavenly layer saint rulers in breaking through to Holy Emperor, said Tianjian. What? The origin essence of the tungsten alloy mine can assist 9th heavenly layer saint rulers in breaking through to Holy Emperor? Huang Tianba was astounded. He could not help but cry out. He was not the only one. Even Jianchen, newbies, and Deity were shocked. Their eyes immediately began to burn with desire as their calm minds began to waver. The origin essence of the tungsten alloy mine could actually assist 9th heavenly layer saint rulers in breaking through to Holy Emperor. Such a divine item was definitely something that all saint rulers would go crazy over. No one could remain calm before such a divine item, and even some holy emperors were no exception. Won't the tungsten alloy mine attract even more attention in the future if that's the case? Even if the people from the ancient clans don't openly try to steal it, who can guarantee that they won't secretly take action? Deity said sternly. Very soon, Jianchen thought about the consequences of this. He became nervous again after he had just relaxed. Tianjian smiled when he saw Jianchen's stern expression. Jianchen, you don't need to worry. The tungsten alloy is extremely tough, and the tungsten alloy near the origin essence has already reached supreme quality. It's several hundred times tougher than regular tungsten alloys. Coupled with the wondrous ability of the tungsten alloy to disperse attacks, it won't be easy to break through it. Even with my abilities, I can't break through the layer of tungsten alloy protecting the origin essence, even if I use all my strength. So you don't need to worry about the origin essence at all. Huang, Tianba, newbies, and Deity all gasped when they heard that. Their overflowing desire slowly subsided. Even the Grand Elder of Mercenary City was unable to break through the tungsten alloy and take away the origin essence despite using all his strength. Who else on the Tianyuan continent had the ability to do so? In their hearts, the origin essence hidden within the tungsten alloy mine was basically a treasure that no one could obtain. Jianchen let out a sigh of relief when he heard Tianjian's words. However, he soon frowned again and said, even with Senior's abilities, you can't break through the tungsten alloy protecting the origin essence. Aren't I guarding a treasure chest that can't be opened? I can only look at it, but not enjoy it. Jianchen, it won't be difficult for you to break through to the Holy Emperor realm with your talent. You don't need to think about the origin essence in the tungsten alloy mine for now. Just focus on your cultivation, Tianjian said. Yes, Senior. Jianchen replied obediently like a student listening to a teacher. The toughness of the tungsten alloy mine had already made him retreat. The origin essence was not that easy to obtain. Master, that's actually the origin energy of the metal spirit of the 5 elements. That's great. I never thought that I would be able to encounter the metal spirit of the 5 elements here. This is a spiritual item of the heavens and earth. It's something that can only be encountered by chance. Xing's excited voice suddenly rang out in Jianchen's head. Oh my, it really is the metal spirit of the 5 elements. And I had thought that there were no metal spirits or wood spirits in this world where the 5 elements were incomplete. I never thought that I would accidentally discover the metal spirit of the origin energy here. Qing Sua's voice rang out as soon as Xing finished speaking. Jianchen was slightly surprised by what Xing had said, but he returned to his senses very soon. He asked in his head, Xing, Qing Sua, are you saying that the origin essence hidden in the tungsten alloy mine is the metal spirit of the 5 elements? Yes, Master. That is indeed the origin energy of the metal spirits of the 5 elements. We definitely won't be mistaken about the energy of the 5 elements, Xing excitedly said. Master, even though the metal spirit of the origin energy down there is still very weak, it contains quite a lot of energy. If you can absorb it, your chaotic body will definitely advance, Qing Sua said. Jianchen became interested as well when he heard that. However, when he thought about the toughness of the tungsten alloy, he felt bitter inside. Xing, that's easy. The metal spirit of the origin energy is protected by the tungsten alloy. How am I supposed to take it out? This time, Xing and Qing Sua both fell silent. Only after quite a while did Xing's troubled voice rang out. Under the influence of the metal spirit of the origin energy, the surrounding rocks have already become extremely tough metal. With master strength, it's impossible for you to break through the outer layer of metal and take out the metal spirit of the origin energy. Master, you can only wait until you forge the azulite swords before you take away the origin energy, said Qing Sua. The azulite swords. It's the azulite swords again. Jianchen felt his head ache when he heard about the azulite swords. He very much wished that he could forge the swords as soon as possible, but the materials were just far too difficult to find. Without gathering enough materials, he would not be able to forge them even if he wanted to. Whatever. It's not like the metal spirit of the origin energy will run away on its own. It's not like other people can take it away. Let's talk about this in the future, Jianchen thought inside. Jianchen, since the matters here have been dealt with, I'll be taking my leave first. Tianjian's indifferent voice suddenly rang out in Jianchen's head. Senior, it's rare for you to come. Why don't you come down and have some tea so that I can play host to you? Jianchen tried to persuade him to stay. He invited the Grand Elder of Mercenary City to go down and have a seat. This would allow the flame mercenary status on the Tianyuan continent to skyrocket. Tianjian smiled and said, There's no need for that. Today I fulfilled my promise. Although I didn't help you deal with your enemies, your strength is enough to deal with them. As for the rest, I'll leave it to you to deal with it yourselves. Chapter 660. Tianjian did not stay there for long. Very soon, he tore through space and left. He did not even meet Mingdong. People at his level had already seen through many things. They basically lived in isolation from the rest of the world, rarely interfering with the matters of the outside world. He could not be bothered to interfere with the miscellaneous matters of the outside world. Although Tianjian had left, Huang Tianba newbies and Jetta Tai still had not completely calmed down. After all, the Grand Elder of Mercenary City, Tianjian, had come to their aid in front of all the hermit clans and the 2 ancient clans. Without a doubt, this was proof to everyone that they had some sort of relationship with the Grand Elder of Mercenary City. To them, this was immeasurably great. At the very least, the hermit clans and ancient clans would not dare to offend them so easily after this incident. However, Jianchen did not look happy at all. The surprise of finding the metal elemental essence hidden in the tungsten alloy mine, had already been diluted by another matter. He was currently frowning as he hovered in the air with a solemn expression. The figure of the blue-robed old man, Bai Hai, constantly appeared in his mind. Brother Jianqin, we've completely surrounded the tungsten alloy mine now. With the deterrence of the Grand Elder of Mercenary City, there definitely won't be anyone who dares to touch the tungsten alloy mine in the future. Now that the biggest problem has been solved, why do you still look so glum? Huang Tianba arrived beside Jianqin and asked. Jianqin quickly collected his thoughts and smiled. That's right. The greatest problem has been solved. The tungsten alloy mine is truly safe now. There's no need to worry about other organizations trying to take it. Let's all go back and celebrate today. As he spoke, Jianqin took out a white jade bottle from his interspatial ring and tossed it to Deity. Deity, there are 5 radiant spiritual pills in here. I'll give them all to you. Take them and heal your wounds. Deity didn't stand on ceremony, directly pouring out 2 radiant spirit pills from the jade bottle and swallowing them. Looking at the remaining 3 radiant spirit pills, he hesitated for a moment before putting the lid back on the jade bottle and storing it in his spatial ring. Previously, he had received a palm strike from Bai Hai, and his injuries were not light. Soon after, the group returned to the city. Those who had inhaled Nubes' poisonous gas had all regained consciousness. Although the silver-striped golden snake's venom was very strong, they had only inhaled the air that had been contaminated by the highly toxic gas. In addition, Nubes had sucked away the poison floating in the air in time, severing the source vein. Therefore, the thin amount of poisonous gas that the group had inhaled did not have much effect on their lives, and none of them were injured. Right now, the city was in an uproar. Everyone had gathered in groups of 3 to 5, jamming the streets and alleys as they discussed the battle between the Saint Rulers in the sky. It was extremely intense. The horses and magical beasts that were pulling the goods were all paralyzed and trembling on the ground due to the pressure of Nubes' Class 7 magical beast. They could no longer stand up, and no matter how the merchants tried to chase them away, they would not budge. As a result, the large number of carriages filled with goods were forced to stop on the streets, causing a severe traffic jam. In the imperial palace, the blood-soaked Jianqin and Nubes slowly descended from the sky. As soon as their feet touched the ground, a group of people quickly gathered around them. Jianqin, are you all right? What happened in the end? Did you chase away the Saint Rulers of the sect of Dragon and Tiger? Jianqin, you're injured. There's a lot of blood on your body. Brother, are you all right? Are your injuries serious? Captain, how are you? Captain, are you all right? I'll go get a Radiant Saint Master to heal you right now. Captain's injured. Go get a Radiant Saint Master. Jianqin's friends and the core members of the Flame Mercenaries completely surrounded Jianqin's group. Everyone talked at once, and their faces were filled with concern and worry. After all, Jianqin was the spiritual pillar of the Flame Mercenaries. Everyone understood that as long as Jianqin did not fall, the Flame Mercenaries' future would be limitless. If Jianqin fell, the Flame Mercenaries would basically be done for. Jianqin extended his hand to silence everyone. He said with great vigor, "Don't worry, everyone. My injuries are nothing serious. It's just some minor wounds on my skin. However, there's good news for everyone. From today onwards, there shouldn't be anyone who dares to target our tungsten alloy mine. Everyone can stop worrying." Really? That's fantastic. Everyone immediately cheered when they heard Jianqin's last sentence. The tungsten alloy mine was the greatest source of wealth for the Flame Mercenaries. As long as they could protect the tungsten alloy mine, the Flame Mercenaries would no longer lack money for their future development. Everyone disperse. The city is in a mess right now. Go deal with it quickly, Jianqin said. Yes, Captain. We'll go deal with it right now. Immediately, the people responsible for the matter quickly retreated. Afterwards, Jianqin returned to his room. He went to the bathtub to wash off the blood on his body before studying his body. His body was still as white as an infant's. His skin was as smooth as jade, completely surpassing the skin of a woman. The vicious wounds that originally covered his body had vanished long ago. Not a single scar was left behind. The regeneration of the chaotic body is just too great. If it was in the past, I would have needed several days at the very least to recover from such severe wounds, yet the chaotic body has completely healed me in less than half an hour. Genshin sighed in amazement at the strength of the chaotic body once again. Genshin took out a set of new clothes from his space ring and changed into them before emerging from the luxurious bathtub. Mingdong and the others had already been waiting in the living room for quite some time. However, when they saw Genshin's glowing face, they were all surprised. "Genshin, don't tell me you've completely recovered from your wounds. I saw so much blood on your clothes earlier. Don't tell me the blood came from a saint ruler of the sect of Dragon and Tiger." Mingdong could not help but ask curiously. He refused to believe that Situ Ching, who had been a saint ruler for many years, would be able to cause such insignificant wounds to Genshin. Genshin smiled and did not explain in detail. He said, "The matters from the tungsten alloy mine can be said to have been completely dealt with. I also have something important that I need to return home immediately, so I'll leave the matters here to you for the next few days. Brother, you've been gone for so long." "You're leaving again after just a few days," Bai Lian pouted and said with some dissatisfaction. Genshin became stern. He sternly said, "Lian, this matter is extremely important to the two of us. I need to go back and verify it." Chapter 661. As soon as the battle had ended, Genshin bid farewell to everyone before hurrying back to the kingdom of Jessin with newbies and the sleeping white tiger. This time he had originally wanted to go back alone, without bringing anyone with him. But he had to change his mind when he considered Newbies. Newbies was a magical beast, so he possessed some of the savagery of magical beasts. He was not as docile as Jeditai, so he did not dare to leave a golden-striped silver snake like Newbies, who could lose his temper at any time. If something were to happen, the consequences would be severe. Genshin and Newbies flew through the air at an extremely fast speed. Newbies could not help but say, "Genshin, I never thought that you would actually be related to an expert like the Grand Elder of Mercenary City. You've really surprised me. As long as the Grand Elder of Mercenary City stands behind you, I can guarantee that no one on the Tianyuan continent will dare to bully you." With that, Newbies' gaze suddenly landed on the white tiger in Genshin's arms. His face immediately changed as he said sternly, "Every single Grand Elder of Mercenary City is a person of great power and knowledge. Genshin, you haven't told him about the winged tiger, have you?" "Senior Tian Jen already knows about the winged tiger," said Genshin. "What, he already knows?" Newbies' face changed. He said with a heavy voice, "This is bad. The winged tiger is still in its infancy, so it's the best time to tame it. With how greedy you humans are, those peak experts will definitely try to steal it because once the winged tiger grows up, it will become an extremely powerful force. No one will be able to stand up to it in this world unless you humans give birth to another supreme expert, like Mo Tianyan." Genshin nodded. "I know about that as well, but don't worry. It's not as bad as you imagine it to be. Senior Tian Jen and the second and fourth elders of Mercenary City already know about the winged tiger, but they don't plan on stealing it. Instead, they've gifted a large number of heavenly resources to the winged tiger." "Really?" Newbies was rather doubtful. That's strange. Why would Mercenary City do something like that? It's impossible for them to not know how terrifying the winged tiger is. With their strength, why don't they directly kill the winged tiger or steal it and tame it? If they allow the winged tiger to grow up, it will become an extremely great threat to the entire continent. It's said that the reason why they're doing this is because the greatest expert of the past, Mo Tianyan, ordered them to do so. "It's also the first rule of the elders," said Genshin. "Mo Tianyan ordered it." Newbies became even more doubtful. He murmured, Does the greatest human expert, Mo Tianyan, have some sort of relationship with the winged tiger of the magical beasts? But the information passed down doesn't seem to mention anything about Mo Tianyan having any sort of relationship with the winged tiger. I don't know about that, but far too much time has passed since then. The information passed down back then is probably incomplete, and it's impossible for everything to have been passed down. Maybe there's something we don't know, Jianqin said after some thought. Newbies nodded in agreement. That's true. Afterwards, Jianqin and newbies chatted as they traveled. With their speed, they crossed over 100,000 kilometers in a single day and returned to the kingdom of Jessen. After entering the kingdom of Jessen, Jianqin and newbies didn't stop at all. They rushed straight to Lore City and soon arrived. From afar, they could see the elite troops of the Qin Empire's Eastern Sword Legion stationed outside the city. That should be the army of the Qin Empire. I didn't expect the Qin Empire to send so many soldiers here. They're really rich and imposing. No wonder they're one of the 8 great powers. Newbies couldn't help but comment when he saw the Eastern Sword Legion. In response, Jianqin only smiled and didn't say anything. He then flew directly into Changyang Prefecture with newbies. They didn't go through the main entrance. Because Jianqin didn't hide his presence, the Heaven Saint Masters of Changyang Prefecture sensed him as soon as he arrived. Immediately, 4 powerful presences appeared from Changyang Prefecture. 4 figures flashed, and 4 Heaven Saint Masters appeared around Jianqin and newbies. These 4 Heaven Saint Masters were the caretaker of Changyang Prefecture, Changbo, Qin Wuming, Qin Wujian, and Qin Wutian. Seeing how aggressive Changbo and the other 3 were, newbies' expression turned cold. A cold light flashed through his eyes. With his pride as a Class 7 magical beast, how could he endure the insolence of Heaven Saint Masters who were as weak as ants in his eyes? Sensing newbies' strange behavior, Jianqin's heart tightened. He hurriedly pressed his hand on his shoulder and said in a deep voice, "Newbies, this is my home. Don't mess around." Newbies' expression immediately eased up. He glanced at Changbo, Qin Wuming, and Qin Wuming with disdain. He then said to Jianqin with dissatisfaction, "This is the great newbies. Why do you always forget?" Jianqin didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He said, Fine. Great newbies, don't mess around here. This is my home." "I know, but you better tell these kids to behave themselves." "Don't be so arrogant in front of the great newbies," newbies lazily said. Without needing newbies to say anything, Qin Wujian, Qin Wuming, and Changbo had already restrained their presence. This was because they had already recognized that the person who had come was Jianqin. So the 4th young master has returned. "Greetings to the Imperial Protector, sir." Changbo, Qin Wuming, and Qin Wuming all reacted differently. Changbo smiled, while his gaze toward Jianqin was filled with joy and excitement. Qin Wuming, and Qin Wuming all clasped their hands at him politely. They were even more respectful than before. A few days ago, the captain of the Flame Mercenaries had fought a saint ruler of the sect of Dragon and Tiger. In the end, the Flame Mercenaries had even sent out 3 saint rulers to heavily injure the saint ruler of the sect of Dragon and Tiger, causing him to flee. This matter had caused a great uproar. So basically everyone knew that the captain of the Flame Mercenaries, Jianqin, was already a saint ruler. Even Changbo, Qin Wujian, and the others who were over 100,000 kilometers away received the news. They all knew that the 4th young master of the Changyang Prefecture was already a saint ruler. 4th young master, I'll go inform the Patriarch and Madam right now. The Patriarch and Madam have been thinking about you every day. I hope you can return sooner." Changbo was clearly extremely emotional. He turned around and left with that. "There's no need, Changbo. I'll go find my mother personally." "I'll go see my father later," Jianqin said. All right. I'll go prepare a banquet to welcome the 4th young master back." Changbo retreated with the tips of his feet. Although he seemed old, he was no slower than a young man in his 20s or 30s. Qin Wu Jian, Qin Wu Ming, Qin Wu Ming, you all go rest first. I'll go deal with some matters first, Jianqin said. Yes, Sir Imperial Protector. Qin Wu Ming, Qin Wu Ming, and Qin Wu Ming all politely replied before retreating at the same time. Chapter 662. Jianqin directly made his way to Bai Yuntian's room. As soon as he arrived at the entrance, the two female attendants cried out in surprise and joy, "Greetings to the fourth young master and madam. The fourth young master has returned." What? Xiang'er has returned? Bai Yuntian's joyful and excited voice rang out from the room. Soon after, a series of hurried footsteps rang out, rapidly approaching the entrance. You two can leave. There's no need to stand guard here. Without my orders, no one is allowed to approach this room, Jianqin said to the two female attendants before entering the room. Yes, madam. The two female attendants bowed slightly before leaving. Xiang'er, you finally returned. You have to stay at home for a few more days this time. Bai Yuntian was graceful and luxurious. She was wearing a white gauze dress as she walked out of the room. She was excitedly staring at her son's familiar face. Jianqin's steely heart softened for once when he saw his mother. He said, Mother, I've been unfilial. I haven't spent much time by your side. Have you been well? Yes. I've been well every day. Xiang'er, on the other hand, you've been running about outside all day. You must be very tired. Bai Yuntian's voice was filled with concern and heartache. Xiang'er, I heard that you clashed with a saint ruler from a large sect called the Sect of Dragon and Tiger 2 days ago, and even chased away a mighty saint ruler. May I ask if that's true? Jianqin nodded and smiled. That's right, it's true. Mother, the flame mercenaries are much more powerful than before because there are already 2 saint rulers in the mercenaries I founded. Really? That's fantastic. Bai Yuntian's expression was full of excitement. She had heard this news 2 days ago. Now, she just heard it from Jianqin's mouth, so she was not too shocked. Xiang'er, I heard from them that you've already broken through to Saint Ruler. Is that true? Bai Yuntian followed up with a question. Her voice trembled slightly as she looked at Jianqin eagerly. Jianqin shook his head with a bitter smile. Mother, I'm still a heaven saint master right now. I only possess the battle prowess of a saint ruler. At the very least, the saint rulers who aren't too powerful can't pose much of a threat to me. This time, Bai Yuntian was so excited that she couldn't speak. Saint rulers were existences that stood at the apex of the Tianyuan continent in her eyes. She had never thought that her son would reach such a level as well, which made her feel extremely proud as his parents. With a son like this, what more could a husband ask for? After a moment of thought, Jianqin said, Mother, I've come back this time because I have a very important matter that I want an answer to. Bai Yuntian returned to her senses very quickly. She forcefully suppressed her surging emotions and said, Xiang'er, just tell me what you want. Mother, I want to ask about the Bai family this time. May I ask if you know a lot about the ancestor of the Bai family? Jianqin asked. Bai Yuntian's face changed when she heard about the Bai family. The excitement on her face gradually vanished and was replaced with some helplessness. She said, Xiang'er, I was still young when the Bai family was in trouble, so I don't know a lot about the Bai family. I've only seen a statue of our ancestor. Mother, do you know the name of our Bai family's ancestor? Jianqin asked nervously. Not only is our ancestor the founder of the Bai family, he's also the only saint ruler in the family. It's because of him that the Bai family became a 1,000-year-old family. Therefore, everyone in the Bai family knows the name of our ancestor. His name is Bai Hai, Bai Yuntian said gloomily. Bai Hai, he's actually Bai Hai. Our ancestor's name is actually Bai Hai. Jianqin murmured in a daze. In his mind, the blue-robed old man who had injured Deity kept appearing. Bai Yuntian also heard the hidden meaning in Jianqin's words. She asked doubtfully, Xiang'er, have you heard of the name Bai Hai before? Jianchen nodded slightly, but he did not say anything. He immediately took out a pen and paper from his space ring and began to quickly draw on the table. Not long after, he had drawn a portrait with godlike speed. The person in the portrait was the blue-robed old man by Hai. It was drawn to perfection, almost identical to the real person. Jianchen handed the portrait to Bai Yuntian and said, "Mother, do you recognize this person?" Bai Yuntian stared at the person in the portrait and firmly shook her head. She said, "I don't recognize him. I've never seen this person before." "Mother, didn't you say that you've seen the statue of our ancestor? Take a closer look and see if this person could be our ancestor," Jianchen asked nervously. "Xiang'er, when I saw the statue of our ancestor, he still had the appearance of a middle-aged man. It was completely different from the old man in the portrait," said Bai Yuntian. Jianchen powerlessly put down the portrait in his hand and lowered his head in silence. Jianchen's demeanor and actions from before had already made Bai Yuntian think of something. She stared at Jianchen sternly and asked, "Xiang'er, tell me, did you see someone who might be our ancestor?" Jianchen did not hide this matter and said, "Mother, I did see someone called by Hai. However, I have not confirmed whether he is our ancestor or not. I still need to verify it." "Xiang'er, then what are you hesitating for? Hurry up and verify it. No matter what method you use, you have to find out whether he is our ancestor or not. Don't forget that the blood of the Bai family still flows in our veins. As long as we can find our ancestor, we can't miss out on even the slightest bit of hope or possibility," Bai Yuntian said with a face full of urgency. She placed great importance on this matter. Jianchen's heart tightened and he said, "I understand, Mother. I'll go find a way to verify it. There's no time to lose, I'll go now." With that, Jianchen turned around and left without any hesitation. Chapter 663. Jianchen didn't even stay for 2 hours when he returned to Changyang Prefecture this time. He left with newbies in such a hurry that he didn't even see his father, Changyang Ba. This was because finding the ancestor of the Bai family was of the utmost importance and couldn't be delayed for even a moment. Bai Yuntian stood outside the door with a complicated expression as she looked in the direction that Jianchen had disappeared in. Her heart was extremely unsettled. Jianchen's sudden return with news about the ancestor of the Bai family had completely shattered her calm heart. At the same time, she was extremely unsettled. She didn't know if the person called by Hai that Jianchen had met was the ancestor of the Bai family. "Xiang'er, is Xiang'er back?" Suddenly, a deep and somewhat excited voice rang out. Changyang Ba hurriedly walked over from afar and couldn't help but shout from afar. Behind Changyang Ba was a large group of higher-ups from Changyang Prefecture. They all looked in the direction of Bai Yuntian's room with excited expressions. Changyang Ba walked beside Bai Yuntian with a majestic gait. He constantly looked left and right and said, "Didn't Xiang'er come back? Where did he go?" Bai Yuntian took a deep breath and quickly collected her emotions. Seeing Changyang Ba's anxious expression, she couldn't help but smile and say, "Xiang'er has already left." "What, he left?" Changyang Ba was stunned and seemed to be in disbelief. He bitterly smiled and said, "Don't joke with me. Is Xiang'er in the room or not? I haven't seen him in such a long time. As his father, I miss him quite a bit. It's true. Husband, Xiang'er really is pregnant. He has very important matters to attend to and can't be delayed for even a moment," said Bai Yuntian. Seeing that Bai Yuntian didn't seem to be joking, Changyang Ba finally believed that Jianchen had already left. He sighed, "It's a pity that I came too late. I never thought that Xiang would actually leave in such a hurry. It's so rare for him to come home, but he only stayed for a short while before leaving again. Looks like Xiang has been extremely tired these past few days. Xiao Yin, I heard that the 4th young master has already broken through from Heaven Saint Master to Saint Ruler." "I wonder if that's true," said an old man behind Changyang Ba. He was also one of the founding members of the Changyang Prefecture. With that, All the founding members who had come with Changyang Ba immediately gathered their attention. They stared at Bai Yuntian with shining eyes. They had gathered so many founding members of the Changyang Prefecture with Jinshin's return this time just to verify this matter. This matter was just far too important. Bai Yuntian could not help but reveal a sliver of pride when she saw the unconcealable eagerness and excitement on the faces of the founding members. She gently said, "I've asked Xiang about this earlier as well. Xiang, Er's strength has indeed skyrocketed. He no longer fears regular saint rulers. He now has the ability to contend against saint rulers." "Really? That's fantastic. I never thought that our Changyang Prefecture would actually give birth to a saint ruler. Heavens, that's a hermit that only appears once in a century on the Tianyuan continent. I never thought that our Changyang Prefecture would possess such an expert as well. That's fantastic. Our Changyang clan has produced an unprecedented genius. She's actually become a saint ruler in her 20s, Jianshin said with a smile. From today onwards, our Changyang Prefecture is no longer a small clan that only has a little fame in this region. With a saint ruler, our Changyang Prefecture can be regarded as a renowned clan on the entire continent. Our Changyang Prefecture's status will rise as a result." Ha 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 ha! The founding members of the Changyang Prefecture all became extremely excited. Changyang Ba was beside himself with joy as well. He could not be any more excited inside. A day later, Jianshen and newbies returned to the Flame Mercenaries at the same time. As soon as Jianshen returned, Mingdong and the others immediately gathered around him. "Brother, what's made you in such a hurry? You only left 2 days ago, and it was so far along the way. You shouldn't have spent much time at home, right?" Mingdong asked curiously. He was extremely curious about Jianshen's hurry since he had no idea what was going on. "Brother, what's happened to you? Why don't you tell us? We can think of a way to deal with it together," Bai Lian also asked in concern. "Jianshen, is something bad about to happen?" You guessed. She was stern. Jianshin smiled casually. "Don't make wild guesses. I can't reveal this for now, but it's not a bad thing. In fact, it's a good thing. All right, you can all disperse. I still have matters to attend to. I'll go find Senior Huang and Deity first." Afterwards, Jianshin called Huang, Tianba, and Deity, who were playing chess in the garden, to his room. The three of them and newbies sat at a large round table together. Maids constantly placed various delicacies on the table carefully. Newbie spent most of his time in the Cross Mountains and rarely ventured out. He had never tasted the delicacies of the human world before. Before all the pastries had been placed on the table, he could not help but pick one up with his fingers and stuff it into his mouth. He chewed on it in large bites, constantly praising how delicious it was. After the maids had placed the pastries on the table, Jianshin said to the group of maids, "You can all leave now." Yes, the group of maids bowed slightly and quietly retreated. "Little brother Jianshin, may I ask why you called us here this time?" Huang, Tianba asked as soon as the group of maids left. Jianshin pondered for a moment and sorted out his thoughts. "I want to find the blue-robed old man by Hai, who was invited by the Dragon Tiger Sex Saint King. Do you have any ideas? That person is stronger than me. I don't have the ability to leave a mark on him," Deity said. "My Sun Moon bow originally locked onto his aura. No matter where he fled, I would be able to find him. However, ever since he used a secret technique to escape, the aura that locked onto him disappeared. Until now, I still don't know where he is," Huang Tianba said regretfully. Jianshin looked at newbies again. He wondered if the ancient beast newbies had any special ability to find by Hai. Noticing Jianshin's gaze, newbie shrugged and said, "Don't look at me. I have never fought with that person before. How would I know where he is? However, if you want to find that old man in sackcloth, I have a way. He has my poison on him. As long as he has not completely cleansed himself of the poison, I will be able to sense his location no matter how far away he is." Gentian frowned slightly and said, "It seems that if I want to find his location, I will have to start with the Dragon Tiger Sect Saint King. Little brother Gentian, don't you have a grudge with the Dragon Tiger Sect Saint King? Why don't you settle it while you're at it? With such a large group of people, the Dragon Tiger Sect is no longer a threat to us," Huang Tianba suggested. "That's exactly what I was thinking." Gentian nodded slightly. After a moment of silence, he said, "The Dragon Tiger Sect Saint King is doing everything he can to get rid of me. If I wasn't lucky, I would have died at his hands long ago. So, I will not go easy on him. He must die in this operation. Jeddah, you stay here and watch over things. Newbies, Senior Huang, the three of us will head to the Dragon Tiger Sect immediately." "Haha, little brother Gentian is indeed a decisive person. I, Huang Tianba, admire you," Huang Tianba praised before leaving the room with Gentian. After that, Gentian bid farewell to Mingdong and the others before leaving with Huang Tianba and newbies. They hurried to the Dragon Tiger Sect. The Dragon Tiger Sect was not far from the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom. With Gentian's group's speed, they quickly arrived at the Dragon Tiger Sect's encampment. From afar, they could see many people moving about in the Dragon Tiger Sect. Gentian hovered in the air above the Dragon Tiger Sect as he coldly looked down at the tiny building below. He said, "Dragon Tiger Sect Saint King, come out and accept your death." Gentian's voice was not loud, but it reverberated in the air for a long time. The sect of Dragon and Tiger immediately fell into chaos. A large number of people ran out of their houses and stood outside to watch the three figures hovering in the air. They discussed with each other as their faces were filled with unease. Although they did not recognize the three of them, they knew that they were not to be trifled with when they saw how they did not treat the saint ruler of the sect of Dragon and Tiger with any importance. Over a dozen figures flew out from various parts of the Dragon Tiger Sect. They soon arrived at the same altitude as Gentian's group and stopped. They all stared at Gentian's group with sharp eyes. The person in the lead was the Dragon Tiger Sect's leader, Chris. Chapter 664. Gentian could not help but sneer as he coldly stared at the sect master's shocked expression. He said, "Sect Master Chris, I never thought that we would meet again so soon." Chris was extremely pale. He looked back at the Heaven Saint Masters behind him and despair filled his eyes. A few days ago, when they had gone to find Gentian with the saint ruler of the Dragon and Tiger Sect, Gentian had killed over a dozen Heaven Saint Masters with a single palm strike, causing the sect's strength to plummet. The Heaven Saint Masters behind him were the last of what the sect had accumulated over the past several thousand years. The expressions of the Heaven Saint Masters of the Dragon and Tiger Sect all changed when they heard that the person who had come was Gentian. Although they had not participated in the matter a few days ago, they had all heard about how Gentian had killed over a dozen Heaven Saint Masters with a single palm strike. They knew that although he was young, his strength had already surpassed that of a Heaven Saint Master and reached a supreme level of cultivation. He was on a completely different level from them. "Gentian, what do you want?" Chris' voice began to tremble as he glanced past Gentian's group of three. Even with his mental fortitude, he had been frightened by such a powerful group of people. Over a dozen Heaven Saint Masters were not even enough to fill the gaps between their teeth. They could be wiped out with just a flick of a finger. They did not even have the ability to flee. Gentian could not help but smile when he saw the Sect Master's terrified appearance. He said, "Sect Master Chris, there's no need to be afraid. We've not come to make trouble for you Heaven Saint Masters. Hurry up and call your saint ruler back." The Sect Master and the Heaven Saint Masters behind him finally let out a long sigh of relief when they heard that Gentian had not come to make trouble for them. They finally calmed down. However, Gentian's words made their faces become bitter. "Gentian, our old Sect Master hasn't returned." Chris whispered as he carefully observed Gentian's expression. He was afraid that Gentian would kill them all with a single palm strike. Now, Their lives were completely in Gentian's hands. What? Your saint ruler isn't here? Gentian's face sank as he coldly asked. Chris' heart trembled when he saw Gentian's sharp gaze. He hurriedly added, Ever since we separated from the old sect master a few days ago, he hasn't returned. We don't know where he went either. Newbies licked his lips and said to Gentian, He's right, that person really hasn't returned. There's no smell of him in the air. Gentian remained silent for a while before saying, Looks like we need to start with the other two if we want to find him. Newbies, don't you know the whereabouts of one of them? Take us there. My sense of him is becoming weaker and weaker. He's currently purging the poison I left in him. We need to hurry. Once he purges the poison from his body, I'll lose my sense of him as well, Newbie said. There's no time to lose. Let's hurry over, Jianqin said before quickly leaving with Newbies and Huang Tianba. The group of people from the Dragon Tiger sect let out a sigh of relief when they saw Jianqin's group disappear from their sight. Fine beads of sweat had even appeared on their foreheads, although Jianqin, Huang Tianba did not radiate with the presences of saint rulers. Just the presence of 3 saint rulers made them feel extremely pressured, enough to make them tremble in fear. Sect Master, what should we do? Although he hasn't made things difficult for us right now, who can guarantee that he won't make things difficult for us in the future? With their strength as saint rulers, they obviously wouldn't bother to touch us, but they still have the equally powerful flame mercenaries under them. Do you think Jianqin will send people to wipe us out? We're not the flame mercenaries' opponent at all with our current strength. Sigh, if we knew this day would come, we wouldn't have offended such a genius with unprecedented talent. We're just asking for trouble. The group of Heaven Saint Masters from the Dragon Tiger sect all chimed in. All of them had bitter expressions. They felt extremely uneasy after offending such a powerful enemy. Sect Master, the flame mercenaries are too close to us. It's no longer safe for us to stay here. Let's just move the entire sect, an old man said from beside Chris. Yeah, Sect Master, let's just move the entire sect. That way, we might be a little safer. Someone immediately agreed as soon as the old man finished speaking. Chris shook his head and gently sighed. Moving the sect is easier said than done. Although we don't have a lot of disciples, there are still several thousand of them. With such a large group, we won't be able to hide our tracks no matter where we go. We won't be able to do it without anyone noticing. And now that the flame mercenaries have become so famous, they're very famous in a radius of 100,000 kilometers. Everyone dares to show them respect. If they want to find us, they'll be able to find us easily no matter where we go. Where do you think we can run to? There's nowhere to hide. There's nowhere to hide, unless we abandon the disciples of the sect and flee by ourselves, but I can't do something like that. Then what do we do? Are we just going to stay here and wait for death? Someone asked. Our enmity with Jianqin isn't very deep. It's just that the old sect master and Jianqin seem to have a very great enmity with each other. Look, Jianqin's group didn't do anything to us when they came. So I don't think Jianqin has any intentions of killing us either. There's still a chance for this matter to turn around. I'll personally pay a visit one day and ask for punishment. I hope this matter can be reduced to a small matter, said Chris. In a primitive mountain range, there was a very simple and unadorned villa. The villa was very quiet, not a single sound came out, and not a single person moved. It was as silent as death. It looked like a deserted villa that had been abandoned for a long time. However, the huge villa still maintained a spotless cleanliness. At this moment, a white-robed, burly old man sat in a large room in the villa with a troubled expression. His face was filled with worry, and he was extremely uneasy. At this moment, a series of light footsteps were heard. An old man in sackcloth slowly walked over and sat opposite the burly old man. Good Qiu, has the poison in your body been completely purged? The tall and sturdy old man asked the old man in the sackcloth. Guccio nodded slightly and said with a heavy voice, "The golden-striped silver snake's poison really lives up to its name. It can even pose a fatal threat to Saint rulers. If it weren't for the fact that I was much stronger than the snake, I definitely wouldn't have been able to purge the poison from my body so easily." Guccio paused. He looked at the old man and scolded. "Situ, I've already told you not to get involved with the affairs of the mortal world, but you refuse to listen. Look at it now. You've offended such a powerful enemy that even the Grand Elder of Mercenary City has come. I'd like to see how you're going to deal with this. If it weren't for the fact that the Grand Elder of Mercenary City disdained to act against us juniors due to his status, none of us would have been able to escape from under his nose so smoothly." Situ was stern. She said with a heavy voice, "I never thought that Gentian would have such a great backing, actually being related to the Grand Elder of Mercenary City. He even has a similarly powerful beast of ancient times by his side. Sigh, it'll be even more difficult to kill him now." Guccio glared at her and said, "Situ, I think you're just looking to die. You're still thinking about killing Gentian even at this point. You better think about how to protect yourself. Although hiding here will be safer for now, it's not a long-term plan. They'll find this place sooner or later, and they'll drag my Sai Manor into this as well. Sai, even I've been dragged into this by helping you." "Guccio, you're right. Staying here isn't a long-term plan. Once they find me, it'll drag your Sai Manor down as well. It's best if I leave." Situ immediately stood up and planned to leave. Chapter 665. "You can't beat them right now, so it's best if you run." Guccio also agreed. However, as soon as he finished speaking, his face suddenly changed. He growled, "I never thought they'd come so quickly. Situ, you can't leave even if you want to now." Situ-Ching's face changed drastically as she cried out, "Have Gentian and the others already found this place?" Guccio nodded sternly. "They're already outside." "Impossible. This place is so well hidden, and it's so far away. We didn't leave behind any clues when we left. So how did they find this place so quickly?" Situ became slightly flustered. The fact that Gentian and the others had arrived so quickly had indeed taken her by surprise. "There's a total of 3 of them. That troublesome snake and the ancestor of the Huang family are both here. It'll be very difficult for us to deal with them with just the 2 of us. Moreover, this is my Sai Manor, so if I continue to interfere, I might bring disaster to the Sai Manor. Although my Sai Manor has a great background, Gentian and the others also have the powerful mercenary city behind them. They're not to be trifled with. Situ, please forgive me for not being able to help you this time." Guccio sighed gently. His face was filled with helplessness. "Looks like I can only flee. My strength is around the same as theirs, so if I flee at full speed, it should be very difficult for them to catch up to me," Situ said with a heavy voice. Outside the Sai Manor, Jianchen, newbies, and Huang, Tianba hovered in the air as they looked down at the deathly silent manor. Even though there was not a single person in the manor, they did not believe it to be an uninhabited manor. With their strength, they could clearly sense that there were several hundred people living in the silent manor. However, all of them were hiding in their rooms to cultivate. They did not come out at all. I've already completely lost contact with the old man. He's already purged the poison I left in his body. But according to the location I sensed earlier, he should be hiding here, Newbie said indifferently. Gentian's soul completely enveloped the manor, allowing him to observe the situation inside clearly. He sighed. "I never thought that there would be a hidden sect here. Although they have less than 500 people, they're far more powerful than the sect of Dragon and Tiger. Half of them are Earth Saint Masters, and they have twice as many Heaven Saint Masters as the sect of Dragon and Tiger. This sect is not simple. Everyone is focused on cultivation and has become true hermits. They don't touch the mortal world and don't care about the matters of the outside world. They've basically reached a level where they have no desires at all. It wouldn't be strange if saint rulers could reach this level of cultivation, but even people who haven't even reached Earth Saint Master can reach this level of cultivation. I can't help but sigh in amazement, Huang Tianba felt. Jianqin nodded in great agreement. The feeling that this sect gave him was indeed different. He then cleared his throat and said, "Is the person in charge here present? Please come out." Jianqin's voice echoed through the manor. The sudden voice woke up all the people who had been hiding in their rooms to cultivate. Immediately, the tightly shut doors of the manor were opened one by one. Simple people walked out one by one. They all stared at Jianqin's group of 3 curiously. They did not give off any presences. Their eyes were as calm as water without any ripples. In the blink of an eye, the originally deathly silent manor became lively, and there were people everywhere. Over 20 Heaven Saint Masters flew up from below, hovering at the same height as the 3 of them. The leader, an old man with white hair and a ruddy complexion, clasped his hands at the 3 of them and warmly said, "How may I address you, 3 sirs? I am Bing Hua, the chief manager of the 4 Harmonies Manor. Greetings. All of you can leave now." Just as Jianqin was about to reply, an old voice rang out from the manor. It was not loud, but it rang out in everyone's ears. Soon after, an old man in sackcloth flew out at a steady pace. "We greet the manor lord." Everyone bowed when they saw the old man, including the 20 or so Heaven Saint Masters hovering in the air. "It really is you." Seeing the old man in sackcloth, Jianqin could not help but sneer. "Old man, our fight is not over yet. Let's continue today. We won't stop until a victor is decided." Newbies clenched his fists and licked his lips. He was in high spirits. The old man in sackcloth arrived before everyone. He glanced at Jianqin's group of 3 with a complicated gaze. Afterwards, he turned around and said to the people behind him, "Bing Hua, all of you can leave. There's nothing for you to do here." "Yes, Villa Master." The 20 or so Heaven Saint Masters respectfully replied before returning to the ground. The old man looked back at Jianqin and said, "I am the manor lord of the 4 Harmonies Manor, Guqiu. What happened last time has nothing to do with the 4 Harmonies Manor, so I hope you won't involve the manor. If you have any problems, feel free to come at me. As the leader of a sect, you actually decided to become our enemy without considering the consequences. You've brought us a great deal of trouble. Now that you've seen that we're stronger than you want to back out so easily? How can it be that easy?" Jianqin sneered. Just as the 2 of them were in a stalemate, a white figure silently appeared in the depths of the manor. It avoided everyone's gazes and silently fled into the distance. Very soon, it disappeared into the boundless forest without causing any disturbances. Jianqin's words caused Guqiu's face to change slightly. After a moment of hesitation, he said, "Jianqin, I know that you have the support of Mercenary City and that you don't even fear ancient clans. But it's not like my 4 Harmonies Manor doesn't have any backing. Have you heard of the Pure Heart Pavilion?" "Pure Heart Pavilion?" Jianqin became stunned when he heard the name. He could not help but think back to the time when he had gone to search for the Saint Ruler's dwelling. He had come across a small hermit sect deep in the mountains. The sect was called the Pure Heart Pavilion. However, although the master of the Pure Heart Pavilion was extraordinary, she was only a Heaven Saint Master. She did not seem to be very powerful. Newbies and Huang Tianba both sank into their thoughts when they heard the words Pure Heart Pavilion. The 4 Harmonies Manor was an extremely powerful hermit sect on the Tianyuan continent. There were not many organizations that could be called powerful by the 4 Harmonies Manor. They had to be an ancient clan at the very least. A while later, Huang Tianba seemed to think of something. A gleam of light flashed through his eyes and they immediately widened. He cried out, "Pure Heart Pavilion? Is it the Pure Heart Pavilion of the 10 Protector clans?" "Correct. It's the Pure Heart Pavilion of the 10 Protector clans," Guqiu proudly said. "Why, Your Four Harmonies Manor is actually connected to the Pure Heart Pavilion of the 10 Protector Clans. Huang Tianba asked in shock. He was extremely unsettled inside. You're right. Our Four Harmonies Manor is indeed connected to the Pure Heart Pavilion, and it's not just a simple relationship. If we really want to talk about it, our Four Harmonies Manor should be an outer branch of the Pure Heart Pavilion. Our goal is to find suitable disciples to practice the unique cultivation methods of the Pure Heart Pavilion and select suitable disciples for the Pure Heart Pavilion, said Guqiu. So that's how it is. You're actually an outer branch of the Pure Heart Pavilion. No wonder everyone here can achieve a state of desireless. Huang Tianba came to a realization. Jianqin also frowned slightly when he heard about the Protector Clans. Although he did not know much about the Protector Clans, he knew that they were definitely extremely powerful. They were not to be trifled with. Damn, old man, I never thought you'd be a member of a Protector Clan. Newbies gritted his teeth. Although he was fearless, he did not dare to act recklessly before the people of the Protector Clans. They were terrifying existences that could easily wipe out the Gilligan clan. Huang Tianba also became rather stern. He turned to Jianqin and said softly, Jianqin, the Protector Clans are the ultimate power of the continent. They're terrifying existences that surpass the ancient clans and have always protected the continent silently. They're no weaker than Mercenary City, so let's just forget about this matter. There's no need to offend a Protector Clan over something so small and cause trouble for Senior Tianjian. Jianqin gently sighed when he heard that. The fact that the old man was a member of a Protector Clan had indeed surprised him, forcing him to give up on the idea of becoming enemies with the old man. After all, he was powerless against an ancient clan with his current strength, let alone a Protector Clan that surpassed the ancient clans. All right, Guqiu, I'll let bygones be bygones. However, as a condition, you must tell me the whereabouts of the saint ruler of the sect of Dragon and Tiger, Jianqin said. Jianqin, Situ Qing has already left. She's not in my manor, so I don't know where she went, said Guqiu. Really? Jianqin's face sank slightly. He then looked at Newbies. Newbies understood. He sniffed the air heavily before licking his lips. I found her. She just left. Let's go after her. With that, Newbies turned into a golden streak of light and shot toward the back of the manor. Let's go as well. Jianqin and Jetta Tai did not hesitate either. They followed behind Newbies and vanished in the blink of an eye. Chapter 666. In the primitive mountain range, the white-robed saint ruler of the Dragon Tiger sect, Situ Qing, was using the dense forest as cover to quickly flee into the distance. She was completely silent, not making a single sound. She did not even leave behind a single trace. Before he left the Sai Manor, he did not dare to use spatial force to flee, because it would be sensed by the other saint rulers, which would expose his whereabouts. Since the saint ruler of the sect of Dragon and Tiger wanted to hide his whereabouts, he did not move very quickly. He spent a dozen times more time than usual before he finally made it 50 kilometers away. The distance should be about right. If I use spatial force here, they won't be able to sense me. I need to meet up with Bai Hai as soon as possible. Although we're not a match for Jianqin and the other two together, we can at least protect ourselves, thought Situ Qing. Situ Qing thought to herself, but then her expression changed. She turned around and exclaimed, Not good, they are coming. Bastard, I actually ignored that snake. Without any hesitation, Situ Qing immediately used spatial force. His body seemed to become one with space, turning into a streak of light and shooting off into the distance with unbelievable speed. He crossed over 10 kilometers in an instant. Since his whereabouts had been exposed, there was no need to continue hiding. Doing so would only make it easier for them to catch up. As soon as Situ Qing used spatial force, Huang Tianba sensed it. Huang Tianba's sharp eyes shone as he stared at the dense forest ahead. He said, I found him. He's 10 kilometers away from us. He used spatial force to flee. Only you have a better comprehension of the mysteries of space than him among the three of us. If he uses spatial force to flee, only you can catch up. Go stop him quickly. Don't let him get too far away. He doesn't have my poison on him. If he gets too far away, I won't be able to find him, said Newbies. Don't worry, he can't escape, sneered Huang Tianba. Huang Tianba sneered. Immediately, a golden longbow appeared in his hand. It was the king armament, the sun-moon bow. Huang Tianba pulled back the bowstring, and the formless power of the world immediately gathered towards the longbow. He quickly shot an arrow completely formed by the power of the world in the direction that Situ Ching had fled. When the arrow was shot out, it did not make a piercing sound like it usually did. This arrow, formed from the power of the world, seemed to be one with space. It had the ability to travel through space, and it was chasing after Situ Ching with a ferocious momentum. Huang Tianba slowly lowered his bow after firing the arrow. He sneered. My arrow has already locked onto his presence. Even if he's a 9th heavenly layer Saint Ruler, he won't be able to outrun my arrow that's condensed from the force of the world. A ruler armament left behind by a 9th heavenly layer Saint Ruler really is powerful. It actually has such a wondrous effect. Newbie sighed from the bottom of his heart when he heard Huang Tianba's words. As soon as Newbies finished speaking, a loud boom rang out 30 kilometers away. Huang Tianba's arrow had already caught up to the fleeing Situ Ching. Senior Huang, Newbies, you two go over there quickly. I'll be right behind you. We can't let him get away this time, Jianchen said. Huang Tianba and Newbies immediately used spatial force. Their bodies fused with the surrounding space, and they used the power to fly away. In the blink of an eye, they had left Jianchen far behind. They were several times faster than flying. Jianchen did not hold back either. He immediately used the illusory flash that he had not completely comprehended to chase after them with all his might. When Jianchen arrived, he saw the Saint Ruler standing on a broken cliff with blood dripping from the corner of his mouth. His face was pale. Newbies and Huang Tianba had blocked his path in front and behind him, preventing him from escaping again. Ruler armaments were extremely powerful. Even Bai Hai, who was also a 5th heavenly layer Saint Ruler, had to expend quite a bit of effort to block an arrow from Huang Tianba's sun-moon bow, let alone Situ Ching, who was weaker than Bai Hai. At the same time, the arrow was not condensed from Saint Force. Instead, it was condensed from the even more powerful force of the world, so its power was obviously on another level. As a result, although Situ Ching managed to block the arrow, she was quite injured. Jianchen could not help but laugh out loud when he saw how dejected the Saint Ruler was. He said, Saint Ruler of the Dragon Tiger sect, I'd like to see where you can run off to this time. Situ Ching's face sunk. She stared straight at Jianchen and said through gritted teeth, Jianchen, I can only blame myself for not killing you back then. If I had killed you back then, there wouldn't have been so much trouble. Wrong. If you want to blame someone, you can only blame yourself for offending me back then and choosing to be my enemy. Otherwise, you would still be the high and mighty sect master of the Dragon and Tiger sect, respected by countless people. You wouldn't have ended up in such a wretched state where you actually abandoned your disciples and ran away alone, sneered Jianchen. His gaze towards the Saint Ruler of the Dragon and Tiger sect was filled with disdain. A gleam of light flickered through Situ Ching's eyes when she heard that. She gently sighed, You're right. I can only blame myself for being greedy. If I hadn't been curious about the great power on you, perhaps all of this wouldn't have happened. It's a pity that it's too late to say anything now. It's useless even if you regret it. With that, Jianchen could not be bothered to waste any more words. He directly ordered, Everyone attack together. Let's end this quickly. With that, he charged at the Saint Ruler of the Dragon Tiger sect. Newbies and Huang Tianba did not stand around either. They surrounded Situ Ching with Jianchen. Only then could they kill a Saint Ruler in the shortest amount of time possible. Situ Ching would not just sit there and wait for death. She unleashed all of her strength without holding back as she resisted with all her might. Her saint weapon constantly slashed at Jianqin and the other two with powerful world force, causing the surrounding space to violently tremble. Huang Tianba had already put away his ruler weapon, the Sun Moon Bow. He wielded a huge, wide sword as he constantly swung it in the air. The powerful energy within the sword caused pitch-black cracks to appear in the space around it. Newbies had already grown long, golden claws on his hands. As he swung them, he created a dense net of claws that enveloped Situ Qing. He left behind bone-deep wounds on Situ Qing's body one after another. At the same time, his poison seeped into Situ Qing's body. Jianqin, on the other hand, filled his entire body with chaotic force, pushing the power of the chaotic body to the limit. He used his fists that were countless times tougher than steel to take on Situ Qing's saint weapon head-on. Even though his fists had split open and were covered in blood, they healed in a very short amount of time. It was not a big problem. The battle between the four of them was extremely intense. They fought from the ground to the sky, and every time they collided, a huge rumbling sound would erupt. It was as if thunder was rolling down from the 9 heavens. Powerful energy waves filled the entire world, causing the world to change color. They fought until the sky turned dark, and the sun and moon lost their light. In the forest below, one mountain after another collapsed from the impact of the powerful energy shockwaves. Countless rocks rolled down and dust filled the air. The fragile trees, weeds, and other plants were directly reduced to dust and scattered in the air. The earth was trembling and the mountains were shaking. At this moment, the magnificent scene playing out in the primitive mountain range was as if the end of the world had arrived. The saint ruler of the sect of Dragon and Tiger was outnumbered in the end. After just a few dozen exchanges, he was covered in blood. He was covered in sword wounds and black claw marks. They were all left behind by Huang, Tianba, and newbies. Now that things had developed to this point, Situ Qing knew that he would not be able to escape alive. His eyes flashed with determination as he shouted, "Jianqin, even if this old man dies here today, I will not let you off so easily." With that, the saint ruler's presence suddenly skyrocketed. It shot up in a straight line, breaking through the 4th heavenly layer of saint ruler and reaching the 5th heavenly layer very quickly. His powerful presence filled the surroundings, causing the space to freeze. Even Jianqin was greatly affected. He felt like he had sunk into a swamp, and his movements were greatly hindered. Jianqin was surprised when he sensed the saint ruler's sudden increase in presence. Has he broken through? Be careful. He's using his life essence to temporarily increase his strength. He's no weaker than me right now, Huang Tianba said with a heavy voice. Huang Tianba said in a deep voice. His expression finally became somewhat solemn. With Situ Qing's strength, if they were to go all out, it would be enough to pose a threat to him. Jianqin, go to hell with old man. However, Situ Qing was determined to kill Jianqin. He did not care about newbies and Huang Tianba at all. His eyes were locked onto Jianqin as the saint weapon in his hand stabbed toward Jianqin's forehead with extremely dense world force in an attempt to directly destroy Jianqin's soul. Chapter 667. Is this the strength of a 5th heavenly layer saint ruler? It's actually so much more powerful than a 4th heavenly layer saint ruler. Jianqin was secretly shocked. Even if he could not defeat Situ Qing, who was a 4th heavenly layer saint ruler, Situ Qing was unable to pose much of a threat to him. Now that Situ Qing had reached the 5th heavenly layer, this was the first time he felt a great threat. Situ Qing's attack was definitely enough to heavily injure him. Arg! Jianqin bellowed out at the sky. A large amount of chaotic force surged out from his chaotic Naiden, fusing into his limbs and bones. With the chaotic force as support, he used all his strength to break through the frozen space around him. The frozen space around him immediately began to violently tremble under the powerful impact. It was about to be forcefully broken through by the tremendous energy that had erupted from Jianchen, but it was still too late. Before Jianchen could completely break through the frozen space and regain control over his body, Situ Ching's Saint Weapon arrived before Jianchen's forehead with the invisible world force. Swish! However, at this moment, a golden arrow shot over from nearby with lightning speed. It struck the Saint Weapon that had stabbed toward Jianchen's forehead, causing it to miss. At the same time, a golden thread shot over from the other side. The thread was extremely tough, tightly wrapping around Situ Ching's Saint Weapon, preventing him from using it to attack Jianchen for a short period of time. Situ Ching had already anticipated the obstruction from the other two, so he reacted extremely quickly. He decisively abandoned his Saint Weapon and struck Jianchen's chest with a ball of powerful world force. Bang! With a muffled sound, Jianchen's clothes immediately disintegrated into dust. His chest cracked like a piece of porcelain, forming a spiderweb of cracks that spread across his entire chest. The world force in Jeditai's hand immediately invaded his body, suppressing the chaotic force that had dispersed within his body. It pulverized his organs, and even his heart was not spared. Jianchen spat out a mouthful of blood. He could no longer maintain his levitation and fell from the sky. He heavily smashed into the ground below, creating a huge crater as he sank into it. Jianchen! Huang! Tianba cried out. He then swung his Saint Weapon, leaving behind a blur in the air as it stabbed into Situ Ching's back. It pierced through Situ Ching's entire body. Without giving Situ Ching any time to catch his breath, Huang Tianba slammed his palm into Situ Ching's back with the power of the world, sending him flying. Situ Ching spat out a mouthful of blood as he fell, like a broken kite. He did not have much time left to live, and the battle prowess he had gained by burning his life essence had nearly depleted his remaining lifespan. Coupled with the fact that Nubis' poison was constantly devouring his life force, he was like an arrow at the end of its flight. Boom! With another thud, the saint ruler of the sect of Dragon and Tiger, Situ Ching, slammed into a huge rock 100 meters away from Jianchen. She could no longer climb back up. The powerful impact had shattered the tough rock into pieces. Huang, Tianba, and Nubis quickly fell from the sky, landing on the edge of the crater that Jianchen had created. "Brother Jianchen, are you all right?" Huang Tianba asked worriedly, with a casual wave of his hand. He used the energy of the world to lift Jianchen out of the crater. He carefully placed him on a flat patch of grass to the side. Nubis also sternly stared at Jianchen, whose chest had been shattered like porcelain. He understood the power of Situ Ching's palm strike extremely well. Even though Jianchen's body was abnormally tough, he still had not reached Saint Ruler. It was indeed difficult for him to fend off Situ Ching, who was at the 5th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler. The difference between each of the 9 heavenly layers of Saint Ruler was extremely great. The most important difference was between the 5th heavenly layer and the 4th heavenly layer. The difference between these two levels was like a watershed. If a 4th heavenly layer Saint Ruler faced off against a 5th heavenly layer Saint Ruler, they would not be able to fend off the 5th heavenly layer Saint Ruler. Although they would not be able to defeat the 5th heavenly layer Saint Ruler, they would still be able to fend off the 5th heavenly layer Saint Ruler because they both controlled the world force and the mysteries of space. The only difference was that they had different levels of comprehension. Jianchen had not even reached Saint Ruler, so he was indeed very weak before a 5th heavenly layer Saint Ruler, just by relying on his tough body. Jianchen was pale as he lay on the grass with his upper body naked. He coughed up a few mouthfuls of blood as he looked at Huang, Tianba, and Nubis with a rather gloomy gaze. He said, "I'm fine, at least I won't die." I never thought that his palm strike would be so powerful. I can't even endure it. Nubis and Huang Tianba's tense expressions eased up slightly when they saw how Jianchen was fine. Huang Tianba gently smiled, Jianqin, the difference in strength between the fifth heavenly layer and the fourth heavenly layer is several times greater. With your tough body, you can only endure an attack from a fourth heavenly layer Saint Ruler for a small price. If you were facing a fifth heavenly layer Saint Ruler, your advantage would be greatly reduced. However, you should be proud that you can endure a full-powered attack from a fifth heavenly layer Saint Ruler without dying, even though you're not a Saint Ruler. Jianqin endured the excruciating pain as he struggled to his feet. He asked, "Is the Saint Ruler of the sect of Dragon and Tiger dead?" "Of course not. Do you think that Saint Rulers are so easy to kill? They're tough. Unless the difference in strength is just too great, it's not easy to kill a Saint Ruler." Newbie said, "However, the Saint Ruler of the sect of Dragon and Tiger has already been poisoned by me. Coupled with the fact that he's burned his own life essence, he's reached the end of his lifespan. He's not far from death." With that, Jianqin ignored his wounds. He immediately dragged his injured body toward the Saint Ruler of the sect of Dragon and Tiger 100 meters away. The Saint Ruler of the sect of Dragon and Tiger, Situqing, was as pale as a sheet of paper. He lay in the rubble with his eyes closed without moving at all. The black blood that flowed from his body had already splattered all over the ground. The poison in the blood was constantly corroding the ground and the surrounding rocks. He had already used up his life essence, so he seemed even older than before. His snow-white hair seemed to have dried up due to the lack of moisture. His face was filled with wrinkles as well. His skin was wrinkled, completely covering his face. Jianqin's emotions became rather complicated when he saw Situqing like this. He was a mighty Saint Ruler, yet he had ended up in such a miserable state. Jianqin sucked in a deep breath and quickly composed himself. He stared at Situqing emotionlessly and said, "I know you're not dead, but there's something you need to answer. Where's the person called Bai Hai who came with you that day?" Situqing slowly opened his eyes. He stared blankly at Jianqin and said weakly, "You really are tough. You're actually still alive. Answer my question." Jianqin's expression turned cold. A smile gradually appeared on Situqing's face. He said, "I'm already a person who's about to die. Don't even think about getting any information from me." Intense killing intent flashed through Jianqin's eyes. He said, "That's right. You're indeed a person who's about to die. You're about to leave this world and lose everything. Don't you think about the thousands of disciples of the sect of Dragon and Tiger? Do you want to see them die with you?" Some light returned to Situqing's eyes. He glared at Jianqin. "Jianqin, what are you trying to do?" Jianqin smiled victoriously. "Looks like you're quite concerned about the safety of the sect of Dragon and Tiger. At least you have some conscience. I, Jianqin, can promise you that as long as you tell me about Bai Hai, I can spare the sect of Dragon and Tiger. Otherwise, I can only make the sect of Dragon and Tiger disappear from the continent." Chapter 668. There's an ancient mountain range several tens of thousands of kilometers away from here. Bai Hai is hiding in a cave there, cultivating. This map has a detailed location. Follow the path on it because you'll be able to find him there. Situqing's voice was extremely weak. He slowly took out a beast hide from his space ring and handed it to Jianqin. Jianqin received the beast hide and began to read it. He quickly found Bai Hai's location according to the map. "Situqing, are you sure Bai Hai lives there? I hope you won't joke around with the lives of several thousand disciples of the Dragon and Tiger sect," Jianqin said with a deep voice. "Bai Hai and I don't have much of a relationship, so I don't need to protect him. Don't worry, the location on the map that old man gave you is definitely correct. Bai Hai has been living here for the past few decades, but I haven't contacted him since we split up last time. I don't know if he's changed his location or not. Whether you can find him or not will depend on your luck," Situqing said. Jianqin accepted the map and said, "All right, I'll believe you for now. If your information is true, I, Jianqin, will not make things difficult for your dragon and tiger sect. Do you have any last words? Situ Ching was growing older and older. His life force had basically been completely depleted. His tall and burly body had become as thin as a withered tree, only skin and bones. Situ Ching slowly closed his eyes as the light in his eyes grew dimmer and dimmer. After a moment of silence, he said, "I've let down the sect of Dragon and Tiger. I've caused so much trouble for the sect of Dragon and Tiger, causing them to lose so many experts. Afterwards, I even abandoned the disciples of the sect of Dragon and Tiger and fled by myself. How can I still face the ancestors of the sect of Dragon and Tiger? Jianqin, I hope you can throw my corpse into the wilderness after I die and let the beasts eat it. Only such a fate can lessen my sins." With that, the saint ruler of the Dragon and Tiger sect completely lost all signs of life. He quickly turned into a cold corpse and left this world. Jianshan, Huang Tianba, and newbies stood there silently as they stared at the saint ruler of the Dragon and Tiger sect. They all felt rather conflicted. A saint king had died in front of them, just like that. A while later, Jianqin gently sighed. With a wave of his hand, he removed the space ring from the saint ruler's finger. The ground beside him suddenly collapsed, forming a 10-meter deep pit in the blink of an eye. He then slowly buried the saint ruler's corpse in the pit with his mind. Although Situ Ching had told Jianqin to toss his corpse into the wilderness and let the magical beasts eat it, Jianqin did not do so. After all, he was a saint ruler. Even though he had already passed away, he still deserved the respect he deserved. "Jianqin, now that the saint ruler of the Dragon and Tiger sect is dead, what should we do next? Do we continue seeking revenge on Bai Hai or return?" Huang Tianba asked from behind Jianqin. "Let's go find Bai Hai," Jianqin said without any hesitation at all. Afterward, the three of them rested where they were for half a day. Jianqin had completely recovered after half a day. He then set off with Huang Tianba and newbies, heading toward where Bai Hai was. "Jianqin, where did your abnormal body come from? Not only is it much stronger than mine, but even your recovery speed is astounding. You only used half a day to recover from such heavy injuries. It's just unbelievable." The three of them flew through the air. Newbies stared at Jianqin's body in envy as he constantly sighed in amazement. "Yeah, Jianqin, your body really is abnormal. You actually managed to take on the attack of a fourth heavenly layer saint ruler with just your body. It makes me wonder if you're a magical beast or not." Huang Tianba also sighed in amazement. "According to the great newbies, even among magical beasts, it's impossible for them to possess such a tough body before they've reached Class 7. If we magical beasts want to possess a body as tough as yours, we need to reach Class 8 at the very least." Newbies paused before continuing. "In the past, I even wondered if you were the war god of the ancient 100 races, or Weijin. However, many of your characteristics don't match the war god of the ancient 100 races, or Weijin. It's impossible for you to be the war god of the ancient 100 races, or Weijin. The war god of the ancient 100 races, or Weijin." Huang Tianba was slightly surprised when he heard that name. He said, "I've heard about that as well. It's said that the war god of the ancient 100 races, or Weijin, was the greatest expert of the ancient 100 races. He was a godlike existence in the hearts of the ancient 100 races and was revered by countless people. His strength was extremely terrifying, having reached the level of the Holy Emperor long ago." Newbies curled his lips in disdain when he heard that. He said, "You dare to use a mere Holy Emperor to describe the war god of Weijin? You're looking down on those powerful existences far too much." Newbies sank into his memories. The fragments of memories from the legacy constantly appeared in his head, clearly telling him some information about the ancient era. "It seems like you don't know much about that era. Let me tell you." Newbies organized his thoughts and said, "In that era, the strength was far greater than it is now. At the very top were the 4 supreme experts of the various races. They were the humans' greatest expert, Tianyin, the winged tiger of our beast race, Poseidon of the deep sea, and the war god of the ancient 100 races, Arwejin. The strength of these 4 people is far greater than what you can imagine because they're all existences that have surpassed Saint Emperor. They're the 4 most powerful people in the world. No one can compare to their brilliance, as if they're gods. What? They've surpassed the Holy Emperor. Jianqin and Huang Tianba both cried out. This piece of news was just far too shocking. The human's greatest expert, Tianyin, and the winged tiger of the beast race had actually surpassed the Holy Emperor. They were unable to imagine just how powerful existences that had surpassed the Holy Emperor were. And other than the 3 renowned figures that Jianqin had heard of, there was actually a completely unfamiliar Poseidon as well, which shocked him very much. Of course, in that era, there were far more experts than now, but the most glorious ones were Tianyin and the winged tiger. Back then, the winged tiger led our race to attack the 100 races and defeated the war god, Arwejin, all by himself. He chased the 100 races away from the beast god continent, which was why the 100 races attacked your Tianyuan continent. Originally, the Tianyuan continent had been forced into a constant retreat by the war god, Arwejin. They were about to chase you humans out, but it was at that moment that the greatest human expert, Tianyin, appeared out of nowhere. His strength was extremely terrifying, no weaker than our winged tiger. He defeated the 100 races all by himself, and even Arwejin was defeated by Tianyin. The 100 races remained in a stalemate with you humans for 100 years. Countless battles of various sizes occurred during that period of time, resulting in countless casualties on both sides. In the end, the war god, Arwejin, saw that the Tianyuan continent was not conquered after so long, so he gave up on the Tianyuan continent. He then led the 100 races to attack the beast god continent in an attempt to take back the land that originally belonged to them. This time, the war between the 100 races and the magical beasts lasted for over 30 years, causing great losses to the magical beasts. In the end, the winged tiger god of the magical beasts could no longer watch and finally made up his mind to kill the war god of the 100 races, Ergens. After the 100 races lost their war god, Arwejin, they no longer had the power to contend against the magical beasts and humans. As a result, they withdrew from the war to take back their land forever. They found another uninhabited continent that was lacking in resources and had a terrible environment to live on. They recuperated and never set foot on the Tianyuan continent or the beast god continent again. Jianchen and Huang Tianba were unable to calm down after hearing all that. The news they had heard today had a great impact on them. They had actually heard some secrets about the ancient times from newbies. These were secrets that very few people on the Tianyuan continent knew about. What shocked them even more was that Arwejin, who had surpassed the Holy Emperor, had actually died to the hands of a winged tiger. Aside from that, there was also the sea goddess of the ocean that had never been heard of before. She was actually an existence that had surpassed Saint Emperor. The 2 of them were stunned for quite a while. In the end, Jianchen recovered first. He asked out of curiosity, "Then what's the deal with the deep sea realm? Why haven't I heard about it before?" Newbie sorted out his thoughts and said, "I'll tell you this. In this world, there are a total of 4 great races. They are you humans, us magical beasts, the 100 races of the ancient era, and the sea race of the deep sea." "Is the deep sea also a powerful race?" Jianchen asked in surprise. "That's right, and their strength cannot be underestimated. The deep sea race is also a powerful race. The sea race of the deep sea has always resided in the depths of the ocean because they are only suited to living there. They never cross the coastline and have never appeared in the human world in the past several millennia, so you obviously don't know about their existence. They are also a huge organization, even more powerful than the 100 races of the ancient era. They are only slightly weaker than the human world," said newbies. I never thought that the sea race of the deep sea would still exist in this world. I've actually never heard of them before. If you hadn't mentioned them today, I wouldn't have known about their existence at all," said Huang Tianba in amazement. Huang Tianba's face was filled with amazement. Today's news was truly shocking to him. He had actually discovered a new continent. On your Tianyuan continent, there aren't a lot of clans or organizations that still know about the existence of the sea race. Probably only those ancient clans have records about the sea race, but they don't know as much as I do, because all the information I have about the sea race comes from the inherited memories of my golden-striped silver snake. This memory will only increase and will not decrease with the passage of time, Newbie said proudly. Chapter 669. Although I've never been to the sea race, I have an extremely detailed understanding of them from the inherited memories in my head. They are a highly intelligent race that completely evolved from the creatures of the sea. They are extremely similar to us magical beasts. They are a powerful race, and they are also the only race that does not have any conflicts of interest with the humans, magical beasts, or the 100 ancient races. This is because they only live in the sea and are not suited for living on land. As a result, the sea race did not participate in the ancient war, which is why very few people on the Tianyuan continent know of their existence. Then how many experts are there in the sea race? Jianchen asked. The experts of the sea race aren't much less than you humans. In terms of overall strength, they are strong enough to contend with your human world. Of course, this is only the information I obtained from a long time ago. I don't know what the current situation of the sea race is. Perhaps they are already stronger than your human world. Because of that ancient war, you humans lost too many experts, while the sea race, who didn't participate, still maintain their strength at their peak. Sigh. Newbies gently sighed. According to the information from my inherited memories, the battle between Mo Tianyin, the winged tiger, and the war god, Ruijin, was extremely intense. Their strength surpassed the Holy Emperor, and they almost destroyed the world. The laws of the world were thrown into disarray by their battle, and the energy of the world was greatly damaged. This is why there are so few experts in your world right now. Comprehending the mysteries of the world and reaching Saint Ruler is an extremely difficult matter, far more difficult than before. Only an extremely small number of geniuses can successfully reach that level, but breaking through to the later levels is even more difficult. It takes several times more effort than in ancient times. Jianchen and Huang Tianba had become stunned long ago. The information they had heard from newbies today was like a fantasy to them, but the two of them did not doubt it at all. Newbies did not want to keep talking after saying so much. He waved his hand. All right, let's not talk about it anymore. There's no benefit in telling you this. Let's just focus on our journey. Afterwards, Jianchen and Huang Tianba hurried along with mixed feelings. After half a day of flying, they finally arrived where Baihai lived. Jianchen suddenly became uneasy when he arrived there. He did not know whether Baihai was still there or not. If he was not, it would be difficult to find a Saint Ruler with how large the Tianyuan continent was. The three of them stopped 20 kilometers away. Jianchen stared at the dense forest in front of him in a daze and said, "Senior Huang, great newbies, please stay here. I'll go take a look by myself." Huang Tianba stared at Jianchen deeply. He could tell that there was probably some secret between Jianchen and Baihai from Jianchen's expression. As a result, he nodded. "All right, Brother Jianchen, you must be careful. If he attacks you, feel free to call for help." Jianchen nodded slightly before leaving Huang Tianba and newbies behind. He flew off by himself. With Jianchen's speed, he crossed the distance of 20 kilometers in just a few seconds. In the end, he landed in front of an extremely well-hidden cave. The cave was pitch black and nothing could be seen. However, Jianchen knew that a Saint Ruler had once been hiding in the seemingly ordinary cave. Jianchen's emotions became extremely mixed as he stood before the cave. He was filled with both anticipation and uneasiness, as if he was extremely afraid that Bai Hai was not the person he was looking for. After all, there were many coincidences in the world. Jianqin stared at the cave 10 meters away in a daze. Afterward, he sucked in a deep breath and slowly calmed himself down before slowly making his way toward the cave. Just when Jianqin had taken a few steps, a series of soft footsteps rang out from outside the cave. As the footsteps drew closer, a blue-robed old man emerged from the pitch-black cave with his hands behind his back. He was Bai Hai. Jianqin came to a halt. He stared at the blue-robed old man with mixed emotions. He was nowhere near as calm as he seemed on the surface. His steel-like heart beat violently. Bai Hai really was here. Bai Hai was expressionless. He stared at Jianqin with brimming eyes and said in a deep voice, "I never thought that you would actually find this place. Looks like Situ Ching told you my location. If I had known earlier, I would have gone somewhere else instead of staying here." As he spoke, Bai Hai stared at the empty space behind Jianqin for a while. As Huang, Tianba, and newbies did not hide their presences, he was naturally able to easily discover their existence. "Jianqin, although I'm not a match for the three of you by myself, if I want to escape, even if you have ruler armaments, you won't be able to stop me. Do you believe me?" Bai Hai immediately added. He did not give Jianqin any time to speak. Jianqin knew that Bai Hai had misunderstood, so he hurriedly explained, "Senior, please don't misunderstand. I've not come because of what happened a few days ago." A gleam of light flashed through Bai Hai's eyes when he heard that. He stared closely at Jianqin and said emotionlessly, "Then why have you come?" Jianqin pondered for a while and sorted out his thoughts. He said, "Senior, I've come for you this time." "You came for me?" Bai Hai's expression was somewhat doubtful. "Yes." Jianqin nodded. "Senior, I have something here. Please take a closer look." A thin book had already appeared in Jianqin's hand. Under his control, it slowly floated towards Bai Hai. Bai Hai accepted the book and flipped through it. However, when he flipped to the first page, his expression changed drastically. He stared at Jianqin in shock for a while, but he said nothing and continued to read. The book was quickly flipped through in Bai Hai's hands. Bai Hai's expression became more and more excited and shocked. Even his hands that were holding the book began to tremble slightly. Very soon Bai Hai closed the book. He stared sharply at Jianqin and asked sternly, "Where did you get this battle skill?" Bai Hai's emotions fluctuated greatly because the book Jianqin had given him contained the battle skill of the Bai family. At the same time, it was a battle skill that he had created, the Traceless Aqua. Jianqin had basically confirmed Bai Hai's identity when he saw the change in his expression. He continued, 30 years ago, in Hellfire City of the Karl Empire, one of the 3 great empires, there was a great clan that had existed for 1,000 years. The clan was called the Bai family. Senior, do you know of this clan? Boom! Bai Hai found it difficult to remain calm. A tremendous presence radiated from his body, causing the surrounding air to freeze at that moment. Jianqin's body was tightly bound, unable to move at all. Bai Hai appeared before Jianqin as if he had teleported. He stared at Jianqin in shock and yelled, "Just who are you? Why do you have the battle skill of my Bai family, the Traceless Aqua? Are you related to the destruction of my Bai family 30 years ago?" Swish! Suddenly, the sound of something tearing through the air rang out in the distance. A golden energy arrow shot towards Bai Hai with lightning speed. The golden energy arrow had completely locked onto Bai Hai's presence, making it impossible for him to dodge. A cold light flashed through Bai Hai's eyes. He directly grabbed Jianqin and placed him in front of himself, attempting to use Jianqin to block the powerful arrow shot from a ruler armament. However, things did not go as he wished. As if it had eyes, the golden energy arrow actually bypassed Jianqin and shot towards Bai Hai from another direction. Bai Hai snorted coldly and directly tossed Jianqin to one side. He immediately drew his saint armament and swung it at the golden energy arrow with all his strength. The golden energy arrow collided with Bai Hai's saint armament, erupting with a violent boom. Powerful energy ripples wreaked havoc in the surroundings, causing space to distort violently. Vaguely, pitch-black cracks constantly appeared and healed. The mountain that Jianqin and Bai Hai were on began to collapse. The two of them immediately flew into the air, hovering high in the air. At the same time, Huang Tianba and the golden-robed newbies flew over from 10 kilometers away. They glared at Bai Hai as vast presences slowly radiated from their bodies, directly crushing toward Bai Hai. "Stop! Senior Huang, newbies, don't do anything." Jianqin hurriedly called out to the two of them to stop the misunderstanding from escalating. Huang, Tianba, and newbies slowly erased their presences. They hovered there quietly without saying anything. Bai Hai coldly stared at the two people who had just arrived. He was extremely stern. One of them was on par with him in terms of strength and wielded a saint armament, while the other was an ancient beast, a golden-striped silver snake. It was extremely powerful, able to take on 6 heavenly layer saint rulers without being defeated. Neither one of them was easy to provoke. Every single one of them gave him tremendous pressure. Now that the two of them had arrived, all he could do was flee if they really started fighting. Bai Hai stared at the two of them for a while before looking at Jianqin. He growled, "Who are you?" Jianqin was now completely certain of Bai Hai's identity. He said with a trembling voice, "Senior, you must be the ancestor of the Bai family." "Correct." The Bai family in Hellfire City of the Karl Empire was indeed founded by Old Man. Bai Hai emotionlessly replied,